exactly is Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa? Whether Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa alone or Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa alone can cure disease, or do we have to go hand in hand along with Sattvavajaya Chikitsa?
Yes, to discuss all these points and many more interesting points, we all have gathered here for the panel discussion entitled Is Ayurveda Only Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa? So now, fellow members, please join me in giving our panelists the most cordial of welcomes. From the classical panel, we have Vaidya Aashish Phadke, MD, PhD Philosophy, Yoga, MS Psychotherapy, and numerous diplomas and certifications in various fields, including yoga, management, IT, music, clinical hypnotherapy, Reiki, astrology, and more. With over 30 years of experience, Dr. Phadke is a renowned Ayurveda, Panchakarma, yoga, eye consultant. Currently, Phadke is Chief Ayurveda Physician, Director of Aashish Phadke's Ayurveda, Panchakarma Therapy, Navi Mumbai and East Mumbai. Also, Honorary Deputy Director, Kasturba Health Society, Medical Research Center, Mumbai. Next, we have Vaidya Madhuri Patil, Ayurveda practitioner and co-founder of Bitvedas Seawoods, Mumbai. Pursued her BMS from Srimati K.J. Mittal Punarvasu Ayurvedic College, Mumbai. Pursued MD in Ayurveda Samhita and Siddhanta and is also a registered integrated medical practitioner with MCIM Maharashtra. She is practicing Ayurveda with integrative approach to well-being and has experience of more than 25 years as Ayurveda practitioner and also more than 15 years of experience in the fields of medical astrology, reflexology, and psychology. Next, we have Vaidya Rishi Manivannan. Dr. Manivannan pursued BMS from Sri Ayurveda, Bangalore, and also earned a master's in Chinese medicine. He further enhanced his knowledge by spending 3 years living with Siddha Vaidya K.P. Arjunanan, a renowned guru from Sri Atri Maharshi Siddha lineage, during which he focused on learning Nadi, Rasavidya, and Vasi Yoga. Subsequently, he was initiated into Sri Vidya and Ashtanga Hridaya by Padma Shri P.R. Krishna Kumarji. Currently, he manages a rural school, organic farm, and a medico-social center. Also serves as the editorial assistant for the Science of Journal. Currently, is engaged in translational research in the field of biophysics and bioenergetics of Ayurveda and Siddha. Next, we have Vaidya Om Prakash, who have joined us on a very short notice. Sir completed his graduation under RGHS Bangalore, PG from Government Ayurveda College, Kannur, in Kriya Sharira, joined Ashtangam Ayurveda Vidyapeetham in 2015, disciple of Vaidya M. Prasad since then, and is also serving as Associate Professor at the same institute. From the contemporary panelists, we have Vaidya Dinesh K.S., HOD, Professor, Department of Komarabrithya, VPSV Ayurveda College, Kottikal, Kerala. 17 years of teaching experience, 21 years of clinical experience, 8 years of research experience, and evangelist of Ayurveda doing researches in autism, ADHD, learning disabilities, cerebral palsy, infertility. Actively propagating Ayurveda through different seminars, conferences, and workshops, founder of Agastya Protocol of Autism, CIMCD, and Ayuka. Next, we have Vaidya Anantharam Sharma, PV, MD, Panchakarma, PhD, Medical Superintendent, Professor and HOD, Department of Panchakarma, All India Institute of Ayurveda, New Delhi. Dr. Anantharam Sharma, an expert in the field of Ayurveda Panchakarma with good background in research methodology, with specific training and expertise in the management of dermatological conditions. He was co-investigator for Indo-Italian project Integrative Approach on Duchenne's muscular dystrophy and spinal muscular dystrophy. He has done significant work in the technological application of Panchakarma. And we have two other panelists who have joined us virtually. Dr. Gopakumar S., Professor and Head, Department of Roganidana and Medical Superintendent at Government Ayurveda College, Kannur, and holds various positions in educational councils and universities across. Sir has objective version of various classics in his name. Sir has various articles in his name. Has also released series on neurological examination. Is a much sought speaker amongst the Ayurveda fraternity. Next, we have Vaidya Roshni Anirudhan, Professor and HOD, Department of Comarabritia, Government Ayurveda College, Kannur, Kerala, an Ayurveda professor and practitioner with several years of clinical experience in managing autism spectrum disorders and related cognitive behavioral disorders. And we had one more panelist, Dr. Radhapriya. Ma'am wasn't able to join us because of her personal issues. Apologies for the inconvenience.
Now, to start with this brainstorming session, we would like our panelists to give their Purva Paksha, starting with Dr. Aashish Phadke.
Namo Namah. As I have already said yesterday, the same stand would be there today as well. And before that, let me thanks Malachi and organizers for giving me opportunity to be in front of you. I must thank her because this particular topic which she has given has ignited my thirst to read more on that. And ideally, if we see the title, is Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa only sufficient? And the scenario, what all of us we must be agreeing upon, that yes, 90% or 95, 99%, most of us we are only restrictive to, Yukti Vipashraya. Now, what Yukti Vipasraya, I need not tell the shlokas and all, everybody is well versed with that. So I'm not going to get into that. But then it is basically using Yukti for managing the increase or decrease level of doshas or dhatus, vitiated doshas or dhatus. And then it has been divided into, to be taken internally, to be applied externally, and Shastra Pranidhana Krut. So that is the gross area in which we work with. But let me tell you, the first name which has been taken in the shlok is Daivavyapasraya. Then comes Yuktivyapasraya, then Sattvavajaya. So the question is why then it has been said that way, right? This is first. Second thing is, not that we have, at least I have finished my years of practice more than 50 or 80, so that, oh, great. But whatever little 30 years, 34 years practice, you come across certain cases that you are almost up to the mark of diagnosing. Your medicines which you are picking up, they are also with rational, and still that patient is not responding. And they, when they come to us, believe me, in city like Mumbai, people, they first go to allopath, that is the usual way. Then they go to homeopath, or parallelly they go to homeopath. Then naturopathy. Naturopathy comes first before Ayurveda. And many people, they don't have an exact idea that Ayurveda and naturopathy are different, right? So after doing everything, they come to Ayurvedic scenario. So after looking at them, when they don't actually show any differences, then usually being into strong believer of Ekam Shastram Adhyano, Navidya Shastranishtam. So with that line, it is true for Darshan Shastra and grammar and all, and it is also true for the modern sciences as well, right? So I have learned psychotherapy, I have learned Jyotish as well. So my mom is also Ayurvedic consultant. Daddy happens to be Ayurvedic consultant. So mummy is into astrology also. And we are working at the moment Ayurveda and Jyotish parallelism. So we see some of the cases Patrika, natal chart. And then from there you get. So we'll say how much time do I have? Otherwise there is a Gantana. So before that, you let me know so that I can wind up. Am I having time? Okay. So in that way, we can work with these Yuktivyapasraya, Sattvavajaya, and Daivavyapasraya. Even Chakrapani Datta has mentioned that it is sometimes overlapping, right? Like Urmad Apasmar is a classical example where you use Yuktivyapasraya, Prakarana, Adhishtan. But there also we use Anjana. So Anjana comes from Yuktivyapasraya, right? I sometimes use musicotherapy. I am diploma in music, so I sometimes use music therapy. I use mantra therapy. So if we use these things properly, I think that will be helping. But a word of caution. In Maharashtra, there were two cases, particularly one case though is very prominent. In that, what happened? One fellow, there is one Samruddhi Marga, Mahamarga, which is newly built, and there happens to be a lot of accidents on that particular road. One fellow, he did puja of what? Mahamrutyunjay mantra, which is not a black magic per se, but he chanted Mahamrutyunjay, he did Homa in the vicinity of that road, and he put that yantra inside, which was a question mark even for me. And then he was booked by legal department saying that it's a black magic act, and he was behind jail. So when we practice in our clinic, we have to be very, very specific and careful that which way we have to give this. If a person is and if there are no major rituals, right? Just chanting of some shloka or mantra, and that too again, when you say chanting, it has to be done in a right way. If you chant mantra in a wrong way, it gives a wrong results. So if you don't know, you get hold of any of your colleague or the adhikari vyakti who is taught into shiksha, we call shiksha, like anudatta, udatta, swarita, swarada, and you need to chant in that particular fashion. And if answers, as I said yesterday, and finish off. So Sattvavajaya is again very specifically can be used. You can take it in extension. Like yesterday's first session, we had a statement that allopathy or modern medicine is an extension of Ayurveda only. So something in Sattvavajaya, you can extend it understanding through yoga, because yoga is nothing but a pathway. Ashtanga yoga is a pathway, or you can utilize the modern techniques like CBT. I am certified in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm certified in REBT, rational emotive behavioral therapy. I have also done Reiki. I have also done chakra therapy, right? So we can use all these technique and can be amalgamated with whatever our basic contents are without going very out of way. I think we can do something better. On research part and rationality, whether it is right or wrong, we'll be discussing. I think I'm before time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your detailed view. Now we'll go to Vedya Madhuri Patil for her views.
Thank you, Suprabhatam. And first, let me start by offering my heartfelt gratitude to the organizing team for organizing this kind of unique conversation, kind of Tadvidya Sabhasha. This is the first time I am saying it. Tadvidya Sambhasha, at least applicable in contemporary way, and I think it's a beautiful platform also for students to learn. Here we are not for only receiving the knowledge. Here it is for thought process generation kind of platform this is. So I want to offer my heartiest thank to Dr. Mala Kapadia ji also, because she pulled me into Atharva Veda, because I was always talking about Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa and Loka Purusha Samya. Then my topic was spiritual well-being, and always used to think, if I have to apply Ayurveda clinically, I am failing somewhere because I am not understanding how to apply it in my personal life. Because we are always being taught clinical application, clinical application. Every thesis we are doing is about clinical application. And then one day I was reciting Guru Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Deva, Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Then I realized, कृत्नो हि लोको बुद्धिमताम आचार्यः शत्रुश्च अबुद्धिमताम. So I decided where I want to stand. Do I want to think this world like an enemy and then get into conflict with everything and with everyone, even with the nature? And that rolled out my thought process, and that rolled out my spiritual well-being thought process. I have tried to return a thesis on this, tried to a clinically applicable, simple form. And there are lots of misconceptions when we are talking about spiritual well-being, spirit, soul, atma, man, consciousness, and everything. And one day I happened to read one quote by Max Planck, who is a father of quantum physics or quantum science. He said consciousness is fundamental to every kind of existence. And matter is derived from consciousness. And I am thinking this is what Charak Samhita is saying. Everything is from Atma. We are not understanding the difference between Atma, Chetana, and there again Shashtha Dhatavaha. We are treating a Purush, which is not only Panchabhautik manifestation. Chetana is most important part. We are treating a live human being. So what is consciousness? How Chetana Dhatu? And Dhatu Samya. What is the prayojan of our Kriya as a Vaidya? Dhatu Samya. And no one is ever talking about Chetana Dhatu. Again, one sutra from Charak Samhita. I'm telling about these small sutras in my way because they came. Okay. It just came to my mind whenever I'm reading some sutra and I'm thinking about them abstractly, then I'm understanding them better. I came across sutra saying Vidya Bruhananam, and I thought, what is exactly happening here? Vidya, I started to find out Jnana is a little bit different from Vidya. Vidya is something that we can apply. Otherwise, knowledge is like just a burden. This is my thought process. And why I am telling all this, it's regarding about the first question. Is Ayurveda only about Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa? And then I come back to Charak Samhita, first Adhyay, Sutra, where Charak has clearly mentioned Daivavyapasraya, then Yuktivyapasraya, and then Dhairya Atmadi Vijnana and all. Why Daivavyapasraya is first mentioned? Because I am always student, I am a lifelong student of Ayurveda Samhita and Siddhanta. I am always trying to explore. This is the classical text. These are the times we are living in. I want to understand the classical fundamentals and I wish to understand how to apply them for my own benefit so that I can be better prepared clinically to apply to the patient who approach me. Because I never felt satisfied with only Ahara Aushadhi Yojana. Somewhere it was failing, the patient was not satisfied. I was also not satisfied. I was actually, no, I want something more. Sattvavajaya, then I understand. Sushrut has said Sattvavajaya is only Nidana Parivarjanam. How many times we Ayurvedic doctors end up telling patient, don't do this, don't. Patient end up doing that ultimately because it's not, the message is not getting conveyed properly. Then I realized here is something that Chetana Dhatu we are not working on. We need to focus on Chetana Dhatu because what we are not focusing from Charak Samhita and we are trying to just one point only question related. So, yes, Daiva Vipashraya Chikitsa is most important part, not just for a Vaidya to be better clinician, but for our own life because we are learning Ayurveda for our benefit also. And if we understand it better, we can apply it better to our any person who connects with we for their healing. So it is the most important part of Ayurveda Charak Samhita is my Purva Paksha. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll go detail in this topic in the discussion further. Now, I would like to call Vaidya Rishi Manivannan to share his opinion.
PPT. So until the PPT comes, a little prayer. Ragadirogan Satathanushaktan Asheshakaya Prasudhan Asheshan Autukyamora Ritanjagana Yopurva Vaidhyaya Namostu Tasme Interestingly, the first verse that we begin our text, our studies with, is Ragadi Rogan. And I think that itself speaks volumes regarding the importance of looking beyond the physicality, of beyond looking beyond Yukti Vipashraya. There is more. There is the Daivavyapasraya and Sattvavajaya. So I'll run through this a little brief. So I've used the word hacking on purpose because our acharyas were not just merely concerned with fixing up what is damaged. I always look to them as hackers of reality. They wanted to go beyond what we perceived and understood as material reality. They were, in the truest sense, hackers. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. So this is the first slide that I would begin with before we get into the core of the subject. This is not just a simple experiment that's done with a frog. And I think we've all come across this, where if you take a frog and you put it into a pot of boiling water, if the water is already boiling, it senses the heat and jumps out instantly. Whereas you put the frog into the pot of water and you turn on the heat slowly. As the water heats up slowly, the frog is unaware of the temperature that is rising, and it stays within it comfortably and boils to death. This is not the frog that we're talking about. We're talking about all of us here. This is us. We're all caught in this loop of life. It is either the past which drives us forward or the future that we are trying to run forward towards. But we are never bothered about being aware in the present moment. So what is the relevance of this awareness and consciousness is that's exactly what Sattvavajaya is speaking all about. We are completely unaware of what we are, who we are, and what we are experiencing. The next slide. So when you look at the human system, the human body, the dynamics, life, it's very simple. Our acharyas, they perceived it, they realized it. But luckily, in our era and our generation, we have got objective means of understanding this. We have got comparative means of understanding the entire human system. In Siddha, there is a terminology of Udal, Uir, Anma, which is nothing but the Karna Sharira, the Sukshma Sharira, and the Stula Sharira. What I always equated it with is that if you take the mobile that you have in your hand, you have a hardware, you have a software, and what is making all of this function is the coding or the programming within it. So when we talk about the Atma, it's not an abstract concept. It's not a ghost. It's not a spirit. It's not an invisible entity. It is an information that is present within you that is determining how you function, how you work, how you think. The function of the Vayus, which ultimately determine the state of your Sharira, all of this is decided by the code which is present within you, which is what we call as Atma. And based on which level that you're trying to approach and treat or fix up, we have classified Chikitsa as the Yukti Vipashraya, that fixes the physical hardware. Then you have the Sattvavajaya, which fixes the software or the program. And finally, Daivavyapasraya, where you're tweaking the code which is within you. How you think, how you function, everything is determined by this code. So what exactly is this code? Next slide. So this code is nothing but what we call as the consciousness or the awareness. There is a difference between consciousness and awareness, and I think I will discuss that as we go along. So when we talk about Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, it is not just the state of your mind, it is your state of awareness. So what is Tamas? It is not laziness, it is not lethargy, it's not inertia. Tamas is merely a state of insecurity. You do not have security. You are constantly bound by the factors around you, created by society, created by parents, created by peers, and in fact, something that's already been programmed in you. We as human beings are driven by a need for survival. You don't find any other animal, any plants worrying about the survival. They just exist, they give. But we human beings are the only ones who are driven by insecurity. Insecurity for our survival. This insecurity is what makes us run again and again in loops over and over. And this insecurity is what drives us to create malaise and disorders of the physical body and the mind. Next slide. So, I take a simple example of Jwara. Nothing beyond, nothing too complicated. Before we start Jwara, before we study the Samprapti and the classification, Nidana, and all these other factors, we come across a small story that we dismiss off as a mythology or just something which is an interesting quirk. But this story is in fact the entire codification of how your consciousness plays a role on the mind and that affects your body. The next slide. So here, the first slide is what I see as the buddhi. When we talk about Daksha Prajapati, you're talking about the buddhi, ahankara, or the ego. It is this ego which then creates a disturbance in the sattva, rajas, and tamas, which is codified by the understanding of Shiva, Shakti, who is nothing but your Ida and your Pingala. When these two get disturbed, it finally affects your body, the physical body, which then leads to buddhi nasha, which is where we see Daksha Prajapati's head being cut off. Next slide. So, what is moksha? We talk about moksha in terms of liberation or something that is more beyond. Moksha is merely a sense of losing your insecurity, experiencing happiness, experiencing bliss in the current moment. When this insecurity for survival is lost, you are in the present moment. Next slide. Next slide. Be Dhairya and Atmadi Vijnana. It's not just giving courage, it's not just giving courage, or it's not just giving, motivation. The Di is your intellect that is driven by wisdom. Your Dhairya is not courage, but it is a loss of insecurity. And Atmani Vijnanam is the realization within of who you truly are. So you can just run through the slides. I'm done. Yeah. So in the coming discussion, hopefully I will be able to elaborate a little more. I'll hand over the mic.
Thank you, sir, for your keen observation. Now we'll ask for the opinion of Vaidya Om Prakash Narayan, sir.
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्ति मा कश्चित् दुःखं भवेत् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. First of all, as all of you know, I'm an accidental talker on this venue right now, but it's blessing for me. All of legends around me, like if to be exactly around me. So this is a blessing. I'm not a specialist. I'm not a expert in the field of Sattvavajaya and Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa. But all I can share, my humble opinion, is that where we can place Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa and Sattvavajaya Chikitsa, and how can we define or how can we demarcate between Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa and Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa. So the topic is actually Ayurveda, whether it is Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa only. So first of all, Ayurveda is a usual misconception. We take it as Indian system of medicine. It's not a system of medicine, it's a system of living. So there are many other systems of living. So to be precise, I may take Ayurveda as the system of healthy living. So living is, you cannot make it systematic. It's very holistic because individual to individual, cult to cult, it may differ. So first of all, I'll make that statement, and coming to the part of Ayurveda, we can take as Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa. So first question is Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa. We all know what Yukti is. Yukti is logical. So the Chikitsa based on logic. On what logic? So that statements may send a message that the other thing, that Daivavyapasraya and Sattvavajaya is not based on Yukti. Is that true? Do you think so? Or maybe all experts around us? We cannot take that message. So based on what Yukti? Yukti is logical reasoning on different science, any knowledge stream that can have their own Yukti. So here we are talking about the Yukti, Ayurvedic reasoning. So how you look at a disease according to the Yukti of Ayurveda. So if you want to know that, again you go to Charaka. Charaka Samhita, Tisraishani Adhyaya. It is a complete chapter. Tisraishani Adhyaya, he talks about the whole picture of Ayurveda. I took class for my students last year. Then I read it in another angle. So then you get a message where the whole Vaidyam is placed. There, if you are looking at it, as Rishi mentioned, that insecurity, that question, the quest for knowledge, first the quest for our own, that life, we have to survive our own life first. Then we need money, then need our earning. Then comes that on your life. Life is survived by Trayopastambha. That is again coming next. Then after that, for Trayopastambha, you need proper bala. For proper bala, you will be in swasthya. If it is not maintained properly, it will go to roga. What is the reason? That is ayatanas. The reasons, kalarthakarmanam. You have to, I don't have the time to explain all that. Then after that, ayatana comes roga, and it is established through rogamarga. Then comes bhishak, the who is doing the treatment. Then comes aushadha. There, Acharya explains these three modes of treatments. In that first comes Daivavyapasraya, and there Daiva. What is the word means Daiva? It is adrishta. What is adrishta? Adrishta to this logical reasoning. Beyond that logical reasoning, anything beyond that logical reasoning, you call it as Daiva. And which is related, the dogas related to that, beyond your knowledge, you go for Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa. And Sattva also, because given very much importance, because the Ayurveda Sharira is not just Sharira. It is Sharira, it is Ayurveda, it is Manasa, it is Atmiya. So after that Sharira, everything subtle. You know the famous quote of Sushrutacharya, Bhudebhyo hi param, yasmat nasti chinta chikitsa. It is not that you never think. No, everyone don't have to think. After that limit, there are other fields which we have to cooperate with ourselves. Every Shastra has its own adhikarana. So Ayurveda's adhikarana is to manage this health. What is the adhikarana of other Shastras we are incorporating? That is the Aindriya, that is the Manasa, that is the Atmiya. So that is what I wanted to give in the first session, first part. Later we will discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Om Prakash sir, for giving your views. And it was such a short notice. Now we'll conclude with the classical side and starting with contemporary. Vaidya Dinesh sir, I'd like to ask for your views.
Namaste all. Actually, I want to take this discussion in another scenario. The present facts in front of me is that for a given science, there should be three upastambhas mainly. One is academia, second is research, and third one is industry. In the present scenario, majority of audience are students. And from academia, majority of the students are not optimistic and they are not hopeful nowadays. If you look into the industry, in 2021, it came around $6K million and expected to be $13K million in 2028. And we are discussing this subject by putting certain ancient philosophical cores in the era of information exchange and geographical position system and the clinical decision support system and in the area of a lot of softwares. Still, this discussion is relevant. Why? Because industries are taking over the disease and wellness concept nowadays. And all data pertaining to a group, not to an individual. So for a given individual, whether the paracetamol will work or not, nobody can say. But for a group, up to 95% precision, it can be said. And 5% that error chance is unpredictable totally. There comes the relevance of an individualized precision medicine like Ayurveda. So, whether we need to discuss this type of discussion in an ultimate perfection of 2nd century BC, number one, whether we need to take up the practice of 2nd century BC to 21st century, number two, whether we need to take up the spirit of those practice and integrate those into the current practice. These are the main 3 questions in front of me. And I always say in the last chance that take up the spirit of those ancient philosophical concepts and discuss in this 21st century. So the mode of manifestation of the disease has changed. The geoclimatic environment has changed. Plants, animals, microbes, even the genoplasm has been changed. So this need a clarity. And Ayurveda now practicing across the world, even though many of these industries are flourishing, researchers are flourishing, academia is flourishing, but what's the status of India? What's the status of India? Educational status is coming down in Ayurveda, not in terms of infrastructure, because the curriculum and academia is going down in quality. More than 83% of the products coming out of the academia are not getting even the job for their bread. And researchers, if you are looking into the Ayurveda researchers, more than 80% of the classic researchers are coming from outside, not from inside. So my point is that in this scenario, if we are discussing this epistemology and practice and research, if it is in an integrated form, the question relevance, is Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa sufficient for a complete practice? That question itself is biased. Because all we know, it is no. Only with the Yukti Vipasraya nothing will happen. It may happen up to some extent, but it will not complete. That question and answer is there in that question. But the real question is how much useful the Yukti Vipasraya and how it can be used for optimal efficacy, and whether the Yukti Vipasraya is always drishtaphala, that is evidence based or not. Because Yukti should be always drishtaphala. And for effective implementation of other 2 methodologies of Sattvavajaya, and we need primarily the Yukti itself. So in every disease, there is a role of Yukti Vipasraya. It may be increased in case of Raktapitta and Interlukta. It may be less in case of autism spectrum disorder. So our discussion should be concentrated towards that end, so that this audience, which consists of majority of the student people, should get how much Yukti Vipasraya is applicable for a given disease and how much Daiva Vipasraya is applicable, how it can be converted to 21st century by taking its spirit. By this, I am putting my Purva Paksha. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll do a detailed discussion in the session on that. And now I would request Vaidya Anantharam Sharma, sir, for his views.
Namaste, Dhanundare, Namaha. The question, as Dinesh sir rightly mentioned, is somewhat wrongly placed or wrongly formulated. I agree to that. Because Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa alone is sufficient for a complete practice. That is the question. So when I asked to my daughter, she is 3-year-old, to whom you like most, father or mother? So she look around and ensure that mother is not there, then she will tell, I like you, father. If mother is also there, she will tell both of us. So similarly, it comes to these kind of questions also. When we ask about Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa or Sattvavajaya Chikitsa or Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa, the person who are more accustomed to some of these varied modalities, they will be favoring to that. So that I practice only Daivapasraya or I only practice Yukti Vipasraya or I don't want to use Sattvavajaya, depending on the situation. But in truth, what is happening? Yukti Vipasraya is the basis of all therapies. Even though some upper hand is given to the Yukti Vipasraya, Tishtatyupari Yuktikyo, as rightly mentioned in the introduction, Dravyajnanamatam Sadha. Tishtatyupari Yuktikyo. Tishtati Upari. There is an upper hand always, because to understand the application of Daivavyapasraya, to understand the application of Sattvavajaya, also we should have the Yuktivyapasraya. The proper planning or understanding the Amshamsha Kalpana of the dosha, then only we can apply the Daivavyapasraya or Sattvavajaya also. Otherwise, it is a blind application only. So maybe Yadhischaya Siddhi, something like that we can say. So when it comes to the Yuktivyapasraya, again, I don't say that Yuktivyapasraya alone is the right or the only methodology to treat the patient, because I'm a Panchakarma practitioner, and in Panchakarma, it is one of the best modality of the example for the Yuktivyapasraya Chikitsa. At the same time, in the Panchakarma practices itself, it is incorporated with both Daivavyapasraya and Sattvavajaya. Because in the Vamana, in the context of Vamana, Acharya says that Anupahata Manasam, Suprajirna Bhaktam, Nisha Suptam, Suprajirna Bhaktam, Anupahata Manasam. So, Anupahata Manasam. Before administering the Vamana Karma, we should be properly educate the patient about the Vamana Karma without giving any chances of doubt regarding the procedure. So, there is the importance of Sattvavajaya in that aspect. And while administering the Aushadhi itself, Vamana Aushadhi, Acharya, all the Acharyas very clearly say, Brahmadaksha, Shirudrendra, Bhuchandrarka, Nilanala. There is some sort of mantrocharana is mentioned. So the relevance of these practices that we need to evaluate further, but it is there in the entire practice. So the Chikitsa is not alone Yuktivyapasraya or not alone Daivavyapasraya or not alone Sattvavajaya. A primary part of Chikitsa is of course Yuktivyapasraya along with incorporating the other chants, other both modalities like Daivavyapasraya and Sattvavajaya. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful view. Now, I'd like to listen with Roshni Anirudhan ma'am from the online. Ma'am, the audio is not on.
Audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Namaste. So directly
Namaste, ma'am.
going into that. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So topic of discussion is Yuktivyapasraya alone enough for the management? Never ever Acharya has told that Yuktivyapasraya alone is enough. I didn't find any context. Everywhere it's Trayo Upastamba means all the three Upastambas are equally enough. They have their own role. But Ayurveda, our text or our field of expertise is supposed to be the Yuktivyapasraya Chikitsa. If you ask the same question to some other who are dealing with Jyotisha or something, for them, Daivavyapasraya may be more important. But for us to discuss with Ayurvedic practitioners, I think we should be dealing or we should be concentrating more on Yuktivyapasraya Chikitsa. It's not like we are denying the other two the role of Daivavyapasraya or Sattvavajaya. Sattvavajaya and Daivavyapasraya actually, it's training someone to live a healthy lifestyle. Not only that ahara, vihara, but also a healthy lifestyle following the yama, niyama and all manasika bhavas. Daivavyapasraya is accepting the non-linearity of the medical system. Even if in modern medicine, if you go on analyzing to the core of a disease, there is something an amount of unpredictability in etiology, pathology, and in even the management of the disease. We can't even 100% predictability is not there. That obscure compartment, or which we are not able to predict, can be attributed to that involvement of something else beyond our logical explanations, for which we can think of Daivavyapasraya component. Sattvavajaya is actually managing that mental faculties, that sattva, tama, rajas, and all, and helping it to deal with the sharirika vyadhis alone. Even stating this, I don't demarcate the sharirika and manasika vyadhis in airtight compartments. It's everything a mix-up which happening. So it's a symbiotic relations which should exist between all these ubastambas while planning treatment. So it's I understand that it's a message given to the Ayurvedic practitioner to convey that even though you are trying with all that logical activities, there is a component of unpredictability can happen in your activities. Maybe some of that activities or kriyas that are designated under the Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa may have logical explanations in future, or you can comment logically upon that. So I feel that it's a mix-up we should work on, and there is no point in highlighting a single one or the other or denying the other, but we are supposed to train much on, have an expertise much on the Yuktivyapasraya Chikitsa. Beli Purishakaro Devam Apya Divartate is a statement given by Acharya itself. So it's not denying the component of Deva, but that our effort should be that potentiated to such a level that unpredictability or that the other compartment can be minimized to such a level. So thank you for the opportunity, and hope I can put more points in the further sessions.
Thank you, ma'am, for your views. And as everyone was anticipating views of Gopakumar sir, but due to the network issues, he won't be able to share his views. So we'll start with the discussion. The first question, what is the clinical applicability of Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa? If you could please share your views and experiences, Dr. Aashish sir.
As I said, that most of the time, and all the panelists, they have said the same thing. That usually we go ahead with Yukti Vipashraya, but certain times, certain cases, you get stuck. That 5% sir mentioned, where you can't actually find out the way out. I share a case of an autistic child, and I am sitting in one of the polyclinic in Mumbai, and the place in Mumbai is very, very, very small. Like it's not like a room over here is bigger than the clinics over there. So that small one came with the parents, and she was explaining the case, and I was taking the history and everything, and suddenly that boy started crying in a very bad way. He started putting his head on table, on wall, scratching his mother's hand. It was uncontrollable. So what to do? Then mother said, once he starts crying like this, then he goes on crying for hours. Usually every night he start around 12:30, and he will stop crying by 4:30. And all society members, they are alligating on that because nobody can sleep. You can imagine. And she showed me hand, it was all full with marks, scratches of nails. So what to do, right? You try to solace, you try to divert mind with Sattvavajaya or whatever name you gave. Nothing was happening. Okay. Coincidentally, not planned, coincidentally, one of my another colleague who is into other areas, he has sent me that day itself one Shanti Pat. Okay, so I said, let me at least play that. I have that with me in mobile. So I played that, and to all of our surprise, within no time, he stopped crying. Okay, Then we felt, oh, it could be just by fluke. You never know. You might have heard that sound. There is a musical part. There is a rhythm. So you must have stopped. So mother said, no, no, sir, this is something different. Can I have that? I said, oh, this is in open domain. Someone has given to me. You can take it. I shared that to her. And that day, night, 12:30 exactly, she messaged me that, sir, he started crying 12:30. Every day he starts crying by night 12:30. And nothing is working. You go on giving whatever drugs, allopathic, Piptal and whatnot. Even I suggested earlier that you apply Lepam. But she started playing that, and within no time he slept. So it happened one, second, third, fourth, and consecutive 15 days. 15 days. Then I discussed with my senior sir. So he said, Aashish, iske saath mein you have to think of using Rakshognagan, dhoop, simple dhoop, and what we usually light in front of temple. So dhoop was also lit, and this together we gave, and then consecutively on 13 to 17 cases I have tried. 4 cases they left, so initially I said 13. But in all of them, not even most of them, all of them, it was seen as if you start that and it stops. So now what is this? I am also a person who is coming from 10 plus 2, right? And also having all other disciplines. So it's not like, just I'll finish. So that way, once you start a result, and if there is someone who is next to you who is a adhikari, now, I am not adhikari in that sense for Daivavyapasraya, because you require to follow certain niyamas. You can't have paranna. You have to cook your own food. You have to have restrictions in your sattvic diet and all. So we are not that way. But if we know some of the things and if we can suggest, I think why not? And there are many such, but I'll share later because of time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone from the classical panelists would like to add to this?
Thank you. Regarding usefulness of Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa, I agree with Dr. Aashish Phadke when he says the adhikar. Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa is not adhikar of any person. We need to be a sadhaka to be able to practice it. So best way I can say is, it's not possible for find a guru. It's not possible to find someone who will guide us, handhold us, and start with us on this journey. So best is Charak Samhita Sutra. Again, I am reciting Krishna hi loko buddhimatam acharya. Learn from the loka around you. What is loka? Because usefulness, whenever we are thinking, we Ayurveda doctors, since last 3 or 4 years, we are facing something called as pandemic, Janapada Dhvamsa. We understood that. But here, Charak Samhita clearly mentioned Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa as the first, along with Yukti Vipashraya. And Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa is not something that is outside of Yukti. Here, Yukti is applied, and the Karana is Adrushta, Karma, or Daiva, something like that. But there is a Karana. It's based on Yukti Pramana only, but here the cause we don't know. Like we have observed during COVID times, people are falling sick, but no one knows what is the reason. So then the diagnostic test and everything, and I singularly thought, I don't want to go by the diagnostic test. I will assume there is some reason, though I don't know the reason, the Adrushta Karma. So let me start with Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa. And I didn't do anything, something very elaborate or something like Homa and everything, because it's a collective endeavor. Mantra Chikitsa, we can always tell at a clinical level also, most of the people are already into this. And then Upavasa, Prayashchitta, we can definitely say patients themselves are aware why they are facing this. And without Vedic Jyotish Shastra, it's very difficult to understand why the certain human being or the manifested Jivatma is facing these kind of problems or miseries in this life. So we have to assume if people are falling sick, there must be some reason, and the reason we may not know. So let us start from simple Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa. From the right adhikari person also we can start, or we can seek the guidance from our Samhita. especially Charak Samhita. And Sushrut Samhita, if you don't know anything, Raksha Karma, what better can be for a Vaidya to start every day with a Raksha Karma. Another point in the Raksha Karma is, since it is coming up in the flow, usefulness of Daivavyapasraya. It's a vast subject. But Sushruta has very concisely put it. Nakshatrana sada rupam. May my manifestation, my rupa, how people are looking at me or perceiving me, it depends on the nakshatra. The nakshatra we are born into, or the nakshatra from our Jyotish Shastra chart, which may be affecting us. Graha we can say. And Sushruta has said, offer prayers. May this my manifestation continue in Sharira Sattvatma Sanyoga Dhari Jivitam way. It is a beautiful prayer, I think. So from that we can start before we try our journey as a sadhaka on this path. And Daivavyapasraya is definitely based on Yukti Pramana as per Charak Samhita. Here the only thing is we are not using pathological test, diagnostic test, or Prashna Pariksha asking the patient what.
My apologies, ma'am,
Yeah.
for interrupting
Thank
you. Thank you for your views. Now, from the contemporary panel, anyone would like to add to this?
My basic question towards this Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa is that whether a student of Ayurveda who studied the fundamental science like physics, chemistry, and biology, are you okay with this Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa for doing in your clinic and hospital, number one? Number two, for public health, in public health, the basic in primary healthcare center, how this can be implemented? Mantra, Aushada, Manimangala, Vidyubhara, all these things. And the third thing is for an atheist, if one rogi is an atheist, how we can customize this principle of this Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa into him. These are the three basic questions what I am facing right now. So, of course, we know the Yukti Vipashraya is not at all complete. Not at all complete. And we know Matra Kalasraya Yukti, as our moderator told. According to this Kala, according to the 21st century, how we can customize this principle of this Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa into a suffering person. That's what I am doing right now without putting this these technologies of mantra, Ushadi, Mani, Mangaladi. For example, in autism management, there are a lot of behavioral management is included. And in West, it is called as applied behavioral analysis. And here, we are customizing it according to the need of the people by customizing in par with the culture of that family or that individual. We are using it. Unknowingly, we are using it. So my point of discussion should be like this, that you take out the spirit of this mantra, Ushada, Mani, Mangaladi, how it acts in our consciousness or in our body or in our manas, and that has to be subjected for the further researches, and the principle has to be taken out, and we have to customize it according to the suitability of the 21st century. Only then it will be propagated properly in a global scenario. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your views. And before continuing with the next question, I would just request the audience to be more interactive. As we are all students, we have so many questions. We are all curious minds. So I would just request everyone to put up your questions to the MC desk, or you can raise your hand and we can give you the mic so that there can be an interesting and interactive session. Yes, ma'am.
Regarding the questions you have beautifully put in right now. What is the applicability of Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa, especially in the pandemic times? Charak Samhita has classically said Janapada Dhvamsa and the Chikitsa also. This is based on Yukti, I already said. Lokapurusha Samya. We have to look at that. Janapada Dhvamsa, how it happens right from Adharma. We have to understand the meaning of these Sanskrit words in proper language. Dharma and Adharma per Vaisheshik Darshana Shastra are two qualities of Atma per Ayurveda. Let's not jumble up Atma with soul or spirit, we will get lost. So Sanskrit terms are better to understand this. And then Adharma, Lokapurusha Samya, it is definitely not present here right now. Lokapurusha Vaishamya is happening. That's why we have Vayu, Agni, Jala pollution. Ultimately, we are falling sick collectively. Why we are falling sick? Why there is a rasa of 1/4 qualities since Kruta Yuga to this Yuga? We have already lost 3/4 of best of qualities of not just ourselves, Purusha, but Loka also. We don't have the herbs that were Sampata at that time when Acharyas, maybe they realized this Sanhita. Now 3/4 qualities of most of the existent things that we see, Chetana things and even Achetana, the qualities are lost. So we have to understand all these Adrushta Karma, because right now in this era, just because it is happening somewhere, it doesn't mean that it is not going to hit us. Like here, it is air is beautiful in Coimbatore, but in Mumbai, we are seeing the quality of air. We see the difference. We understand here, Lokapurusha Vaishamya is come. It's come in the sense it's not as much it is in a city area. So to understand Janapada Dhamsa in that context, if we understand that, then we can apply Daivavyapasraya. Now Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa. Let us stop saying about Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa. The modalities that are applied. Ultimately, Purva Mimamsa Shastra is the Darshana Shastra, Karmakanda part, on which Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa is based. A Vedika Darshana Shastra, they will not understand Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa because they are not accepting something that is Adrushta, or they are not accepting Punarjanma. I am a Jivatma, I had previous lives. Anything I might have done in those lives is affecting now me. Jyotish Shastra is a part where we can see the past and future of a Jivatma, not a human being, but Jivatma. And Chetana Dhatu is why I am saying we have to look at. And when we are talking about Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa, we are not saying about treating the person on Tridosha or Panchabhotik Chikitsa kind of thing. Last point. And Chetana Dhatu. We have to understand Chetana Dhatu apart from Atma. We have to understand Mana apart from Atma and Chetana Dhatu. Sattvavajaya Chikitsa very clearly defined. It's for Nidana Parivarjanam. But there is something that is called as subconsciousness. And Chetana Dhatu is where. That's why hypnosis works. Auto-suggestion works. And not only epigenetics. Now let me talk about the modern way of putting up the scientific language. Dr. Bruce Lipton has beautifully explained the cell membrane. He has compared the definition of cell membrane with a computer chip. And he is talking about subconsciousness. It's not how we consciously decide that is leading us. We are programmed, and our programs are
Sorry
in
to
our
disturb you,
Chetana
ma'am.
Dhatu. So that's the usefulness in contemporary times also.
We would get back to you. Aashish sir wants to add some points to this.
I just want to agree in some point with Sir, because that is what we need to do. I mean, on this, right? And there are people, those who are actually working on it. The only thing is, we are not aware. We are not aware. That doesn't mean that it is not happening. I just give you a single example. We chant Om, right? Whether in yoga classes, whether in Ayurveda conferences, we chant Om. What is the point of chanting Om? Why do we chant Om 3 times? Even people, they don't know why they should say 3 times Om, because Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. What that 3 time actually means. It is for that Trividam Dukkham, right? But then when we chant Om, it has been clearly confirmed beyond doubt in fMRI, in SVASA and other 2-3 institutions, that your prefrontal lobes get lit up. And there is a secretion of beta endorphin by chanting of Om. A lot of research on Gayatri Mantra, there is a lot of research on Mahamrutyunjay Mantra. But as I mentioned earlier, you require to learn it properly. Otherwise, you are not suitable or fit to actually apply it, number one. So what can be done? So it can be done in a proper setup, or maybe in a little openness that, okay, and I discuss on that particular case with many others, with Suhas sir also, with another people, those who are into cognitive behavioral therapists. So one of my another, acquaintance, she told me that in autistic, and I know that because I also certified in CBT and REBT, that when there is a repetitive, things happens, may it be in a form of music, may it be in a form of mantra, whatever, that holds them, and maybe because of that. So we have to do RCT. We have to do RCT. I agree. But then I don't try to discard it on a first level. Can we able to utilize it in a government setup? At the moment, no. If in Maharashtra, person is getting behind bar, so as a professor teaching in government institute, out of question. But if a person is practicing private like me, I have that liberty and I need to explore. If we don't explore, then somebody else from US and Japan and other countries, they will do, they will take patent on it, and then you will come to know, and then we all will start using. So why not from our side? Someone has spoken about Chinese medicine yesterday, right? And in China, when everything can be utilized in their state government and central government, whatever level, and they have given instructions that whatever patient, whichever patient comes to your OPDs, you should use Chinese medicine TCM first. And if it is not working, then you can start one sec. Then you can think of using modern medicine. So likewise, if Ayush government and other our health ministry come together and have openness, and we can try it out, we can give a fair trial before discarding. That's what my fair. And one more thing, with due respect to my colleague, Dr. Madhuri, it's not like only Daivavyapasraya is practiced in Vedic darshan. No. You see Buddhism, in Buddhism there are many subclasses, sub-schools, Yogachar particularly, they do Daivavyapasraya only. Okay, you see Jainism, in Jainism they do Daivavyapasraya. Okay, they do Prayashchitta. The Prayashchitta, what we can't even imagine, they are doing it. So it is not only to particular school, it is everywhere. Only thing, how we understand, how we utilize, how we decode that, and put to little stringent scrutiny, as he rightly mentioned. I think that is the need. Thank you.
Sir, actually, by principle, I do agree with you. But the thing is that all of we know 6.3 million people died due to corona and COVID. And how can we prevent by using the principle of this Devavyapasraya Chikitsa? In the next pandemic, how can we prevent the death? Number one question. This is the global question in front of us, number one. Number two, if more than 90% of the student community is not understanding how to practice it, it is not the students has to be changed, but the practice has to be changed. So how can we customize it? Then taking into the consideration of the public health latest declaration of Asthana, they are really insisting that individual looking into the individual practice, make the individual health perfect, number one, for the sustainable primary health, then to the family, then to the community, so that we can empower the community in terms of primary health. So actually, the current population of Ayurveda should discuss how this principle of Devavyapasraya Chikitsa has to be instilled into the primary health care. Only then it will be useful for the humanity. Otherwise, it will be an occult practice in certain islands of the humanity.
In Maharashtra, there is one colleague of mine, Ayurvedic, graduate. He happened to practice Vipassana for years together, right? And he has devised Sattvavajaya Chikitsa program, and they are giving certification. Okay, and many of our Ayurvedic practitioners from Maharashtra, they are doing that. They are calling it as Sattvavajaya. So I have got some, difference of opinion, but some kind of movement has initiated. When I wrote, I plead to all audience, all students at least, you kindly listen to the presentation which I have given and all other presentations. I've spoken for 3.5 hours, which I'll not be able to cover in this 5 or 10 minutes. But if you can go through, I think you will see what I wanted to mention over here. And all these points have been properly covered over there. So we can develop one module, including CBT, including RABT, and taking cognizance with modern psychiatry and Ayurvedic people, those who are into it, maybe from specific personnel from these areas. I think that can be done possibly.
I would like Dr. Rishi to add to this.
So everything is a play of gunas. It's gunas which are playing its role at all levels. What we consider as Yukti Vipashraya is what is perceivable by our indriyas. But what we consider as Deva Vipashraya is still on the Guna Siddhanta, but beyond the indriyas. What our yogis were capable of was that they were able to perceive this energy quite physically, and they systemized the sciences for us. But luckily for us, we live in an era where we've got machines, we have got tools that can do this measurement irrespective of our ability or inability to perceive these energies. For example, we have the concept of music. Music, we know that it works on the body, it works on the manas, but we cannot say how it works because our indriyas are not perceiving this. But we know that Vishnu Sahasranama has a role in bringing out Jwara instantly. And we have instruments and machines now which can detect and measure frequency and wavelength. And these can tell you how, at what level these are working on the body. Similarly, when we come to these aspects of Deva Vipashraya, these are all working at the level of frequencies and wavelengths. For one simple example, we use there in Tantra or in many in sections of Tantra, you find this reference, I hope it's not misused, this reference of Chitraka Mula, which is being used to create a disturbance within a house. So say that there's a house, you don't like the family doing well, you take a Chitraka Mula, you put a mantra. Your mantra is basically a means of amplifying the wavelength of the dravya. You place it in that house, it creates a restlessness. So we say it's Deva Vipashraya. But when you look at it with the tools, you can actually measure the wavelength and the frequency that's inducing and the disturbance it's creating on the mind. And in fact, while we are still talking about this in terms of theory, the CIA have been using all these means of doing all sorts of damage. In fact, the CIA, there's all reported cases of how they're using amplitude and frequency to create mental disturbances in politicians. And one very example of Gopakumar.
Sincere apologies, Rishi sir. We'll just come to this discussion again. And we'll take a break over here from this brainstorming session. I'll hand over the mic to MC. Yes. Oh, sorry, sir, for this interruption. You can continue.
I'll finish up. So one simple example is this use of Siddharthaka seeds, mustard seeds. So we find its use a lot in Bala Roga, Bala Graha Bada. One very interesting study, irrespective of whether it's a clinical study or done as a RCT or a human study, is that the study was done where in Punjab, they found that the mustard seeds which were growing under the electrical wires, where there was heavy electromagnetic radiation, these mustard seeds absorbed the radiation and they grew even more. When we see its applicability in Chikitsa, it is merely an absorption of the electromagnetic waves that it's doing, and instead of it damaging us, it is growing instead. So there are these means that we can use in the current era to communicate to students, is what I believe.
I feel let us hear from audience regarding this point. That is.
Any students that want to speak first? Student?
So,
excuse me, sir.
Yeah. Yes. So, adding upon what Rishiji has said, so when we look at the Deva Vipasraya, when we do the japa and all, first I thought that it is just utterance of words. What can it do actually? So this is my experience with Rishiji. So we were at a place and Rishiji introduced me to some Siddha Japa and I was actually chanting it. First, it was just words coming out of my mouth.
Then it was vibrations. It was actually vibrations, and we could feel it in the actually head. And when you, along with it, actually, when you do it with a mudra, and you could feel the rising of the vibration to your head. So what happened is that we had an amazing java over there, and you have to experience it. We can't tell you what that vibration or what that feeling is. So after that, what happened was that I had severe headache. So it was throbbing headache. It was just like all of my blood rushing into my head. So it had the next days and all, I had little more clarity. So doing this japa and doing this is a little more what Rishi has said about vibrations. So I think so that aspect is a little more, we can't explain through Yukti, or it's hard to explain through Yukti. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. I have a simple doubt. According to Hindu philosophy, we have some of the diseases are formed due to the Purva Karma Pabas. That is Pakshagada or Kushta. And we are doing Dinesh Chikitsa for that. Are we doing the Chikitsa against the will of God with the help of God? This is my question.
I'm going to add up on.
See, when patient is coming to you after getting not result at several places, and then when you are decoding it by looking at karma vipak, which you coincidentally having that knowledge, not unlike other Ayurvedic physician doing only focusing on Yukti Vipashraya. So that itself is a very coincidence. And then we are, see, and other thing, by doing karma vipak theory or by doing this prayaschitta and all, it is not getting zero. Please understand. We are trying to minimize it so that person can able to withstand that. No one can negate someone's karma unless and until you follow particular path where they are saying that you have got that final lineage like your Vedanta or Shivadvaita, where you try to realize who you are and you are getting away from all these, then you are out of that cycle of birth and death which he explained in his initial presentation. But many a times we are only knowing superficial aspect. You know, yoga means, people they are saying yoga means union. No, it's not union, it's division. When you realize that you are that Purusha, that final singular conscious reality and not Prakriti, then you are getting liberated, and you are getting liberated singularly in Yoga Darshan perspective. That is Kaivalya. Kevala is a single. So Kaivalya state attains there. But when we speak from Vedantic point of view, then you are not separated from that Brahman. You are Brahman. Tattvamasi. So once you know the basic fundamental darshan in a reality, in toto, what happens is we try to take something from here, there, and we try to start explaining according to us, but that is not the Shastra, right? So with that, I think yes, but what you say is right. If time permits, I'll speak on that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I wanted to contribute a couple of things to this discussion, please. The first is that there is a nirukti of the word, well, when we say Daiva Vipashraya Chikitsa, there's Daiva. So someone said God. But if you look at the actual nirukti, I don't remember any of you saying this. Daiva is the shining one, that part of ourselves inside, right? The dhatu is div with the ach pratyaya. So when we mention that, we say that Chalta is, Deva is God, but actually Deva is not referring only to God. It is that part of ourselves. So I mention this because in the US, when I see patients, there's this question. And when I heard about this guy going to jail in Maharashtra, I think it's astounding. So we do studies in the US to prove everything, right? It's drishti if you can do a study and say that a majority of people say it's okay. So it turns out about 92% of patients want their doctors to pray for them. And if you just document it in your chart that the patient wants you to pray with them, and you ask them, do you want it to be of a particular spiritual or an overall non-denominational, that already 20% of doctors admit that they pray with their patients, they don't go to jail, and that they can pray in a non-God way, talking about the spirit. So what helps the patient is what's important. And there have been plenty of studies, fMRI studies and other studies that show that the neuroscience of the mind, when it feels more calm, puts out less catecholamines, less adrenaline, which means there's less stress, and the person is actually functioning better in the hospital. And that is the logic used for using these kind of non-physical therapies. The last is that how do we explain this? And so instead of using shlokas in the US or with actually a lot of patients in India, I use the explanation of subtle energy. So I say that while modern medicine goes from the nano level to the milli level or the meter level, Ayurveda goes from 10 to the minus 30, right? To 10 to the plus 30. So the yotometer and the yoktometer. And the 10 to the plus 30 is the size of the galaxy. And 10 to the minus 30 is less than, a size of an atom, like 10 to the 23 is Avogadro's number. And I tell them that we look at waves, not just particles. We look at subtle energies. And then I say, if you're comfortable, I will talk to you about the subtle energies. And many are. And so we start saying, there's a word for it in Ayurveda, Vipashraya Chikitsa, sorry. But we also have words that are the mental health words. And I tell them that if you think about your movement in your body at an atomic level, at a molecular level, at a cellular level, at an organ level, and it's out of balance, we need to bring that into balance using a fractal field. And the way to do that is through these wavelengths that can create change in your subtle body. And then I introduce them to music, to mantra, to the things that you all are saying. And they understand subtle energy because somehow that Max Planck and that quantum level thing is more comforting. And this is a way that I have the patients become more comfortable. If they're still not comfortable, of course, we don't push it. But if they are comfortable, many times they'll say, oh, so basically you're just calming my vata or you're calming my molecular level of movement. And that helps. So I hope that contributes to the discussion. Thank you.
I would like to add some point over Rishi sir's point. That is, I would like to share my idea about Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa in practical way in our clinic. That is, I got to know about from my friends that in every religion there is mantras. There is procedures to go along with Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa. It's not only about Sanskrit. It is there in every language and every country. I got to know. For example, if Christian means in Greek, and if in Muslim means it's in Urdu. But all are saying like, sorry, I don't know somewhat. If anything is wrong, please forgive me. But I would like to share how we can practically implement it. That is, actually in our India, there is uneducated people and there is educated people. Here, according to me, Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa works out well because it's nothing but a sound frequency, right? So even to a 11th standard student, we can get to know in pre-med itself, we have a concept that electromagnetic induction. Actually, it's nothing but from current we can get magnetic wavelength, and from magnet we can produce current. Actually, our nervous system is nothing. It's an impulse made of electric current inside us, right? Because there is a fact that from our brain itself, I think a 4 watts bulb, I think so, it can be lightened. So I would like to say how we can implement it in practically. For an uneducated people, they will believe, oh my God, doctor itself said to pray well. So it works, I think so. They believe us in very uh, in very faithful way. For educated people, we can explain with this simple principle, like in your studies itself, it is said like wave can produce a particle, a wave can act as a particle, and also a particle can act as a wave, because there is a theory like dual matter of light, right? Light is a particle and also a wave. So explain to the people who are coming to us, because it's our responsibility, I think so. We have to make awareness to them. Consciousness and awareness are different, I know. So we have to make aware to them that it works well, because it is nothing but it's a sound, and it produces the wave, and it has some frequency. It will reach, when it reaches your body, it will make some particle work, I think. So if we get into a discussion in more scientific way, if we found out the real thing, we can explain to them. Actually, I know it is real. Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa is real and it works well. But we have to make awareness to the people who don't know about us. So for that purpose, we have to make discussion. So that only I think this seminar getting happen. So we have to find, I think. Thank you for sharing my view.
I think there was a question on understanding of the Puro Janma. See, I'll just, before they ring the bell, I'll just answer in one word. Basically, see, Janma is a birth. Puro Janma is something before birth. Any faulty practices happening with the diet and lifestyle before birth. The preconception as during the antenatal period can be Puro Janma Krita Papa Karmas.
I think Anantharam and Sharma sir wants to add
Yes,
something.
starting from there, Purvajanma Kritam Pavam Daivam Ityapidiyati. So Daiva is nothing but the Purvajanma Krita karma, not Papa, karma. Purvajanma Kritam Karmam Daivam Ityapidiyati. So in Ayurveda also there are two understanding of the Vyadis, Karmaja Vyadi and Doshaja Vyadi. So coming to the Karmaja Vyadi, there is Purva Karmaja and Iha Karmaja, both are there. So in these Karmaja Vyadis, some sort of Karma Vipakas are need to be administered. So Karma Vipakas, there are attempts in the previous, it was made by some of the later authors, like in the Veerasimha Avalokana, it is some sort of attempts were made to codify or to collect it together. Even though in Charaka Samhita, Jara Chikitsa, the Sahasranama chanting is mentioned, and how many of you are confident that with only Sahasranama Archana, your Jara will come down without taking any medicine? So in all sort of Jara. So this is very, it's a general practice. We cannot generalize this kind of thing. Along with some Yukti Vipashraya, some medicaments, it can be a complementary to that, with these kind of practices. Because, I'm coming to that. Because these attempts were made in the Veerasimha Avalokana, or later in Basavaraji also we can find some of these kind of references where Karma Vipaka is mentioned. But later, it was not that much of encouraged, or that was not that much of practice or properly codified. Now what is happening is there are a lot of claims, this cures these things. There are a lot of observations by many of the practitioners or many of the other practitioners, religious practitioners, etc. Vaidya need not to be a priest, or Vaidya is not a priest. Vaidya can be a priest also. Sure, there is no objection for that. But Vaidya is not a priest at all. That is why always the Acharya says Paradhikare in the Vistarokti. There is some Paradhikaras we need to understand from their own words. Okay. So the mantrocharana is not only the Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa. That also we should understand. Yes. There is mani, mantra, aushadha, etc. Dharana, pranivadagamana. Many things are there. Mantrocharana and its vibration, sounds, that is one aspect only. So these observations and claims, when it is systematically recorded, when it is properly analyzed, and then we need to come to a conclusion, and so that we can offer these kind of practices as a service. Till that, it is a primitive knowledge only.
Very rightly mentioned, and I support what he says. And one more thing, sir, when we say Purva Janma Krita, so when I learned hypnotherapy in the learning phase, the advanced level, I'll take break. So in advanced level, there is something known as regression therapy, right? So when you do regression therapy, I have seen in front of me, people are getting into that mode. We cross-checked on, that kind of, era or whatever. Not one, there are so many such examples that comes under parapsychology, right? Which is going beyond your understanding of psychology, so parapsychology. But then what both of them they are saying, I'm with them, that it needs to be rigorously practiced and examined before we give a conclusive protocol. Because once we create protocol, you all agree with me, even for doing any drugs, we take so much of pains. So when we are jumping into this area, we need to be very sure that it should not harm. And that should be first principle. Even in drug therapy, there are two aspects. One is efficacy and safety. So same thing is there for this other roop chikitsa. If there is efficacy, but if there is no safety, then we need to think about it. But if we go in a right way and with patience and with Shraddha, Shraddha means not blind faith, but at least, okay, let me give a chance here. If we say, no, I don't want to try out, then it's okay. It's not for them. But if that is possible, then I think we can go ahead in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your views. And we'll have a tea break and we'll gather again for this brainstorming session. I hand over the mic to the MC. Before adjourning, I invite our chief guest, Dr. Ganti S. Murthy, sir, to stage to felicitate few distinguished guests and remarkable individuals among us. We welcome you, sir. Firstly, I welcome Dr. K.P. Muralidharan, sir, currently working as professor at PNNM Ayurveda College, Sharnoor, member in Research Advisory Committee Center for Indian Knowledge System. Sir has served president and chairman in bodies like Board of Studies, Faculties, Senate, Standing Academic Council in SCSV MV University, Kanchipuram, and Dr. MGR Medical University, Tamil Nadu, and presented many presentations in national and international level. Kindly come to stage, sir. Thank you for joining us, sir. Now I call upon Dr. Srivat, sir, recognized Ayurvedic physician from Palakkad, Kerala. Sir has got vast experience as both practitioner and academician. He has served reputed institutions like AVP Palakkad, Kairili Ayurvedic Health Resort, Ayurvedic College Hospital, Coimbatore. Sir has moved a Marma Senior Specialist Medical Officer in Department of Ayush and Health and Family Welfare, Government of Kerala. Sir has been selected as a guru for CRAV program Asti Marma Chikitsa. Thank you for joining us, sir. Next, I call Dr. Ravi Prasad, sir, former executive chairman of Himalaya Drug Company and the founder of Almera Botanica UK Limited. He has over 30 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry and is a leading expert on the herbal medicine. Sir is a recipient of Padma Shri, India's fourth highest civilian award. He is also a member of World Health Organization Expert Committee on the Herbal Medicine. Thank you for joining the session, sir. Now we will have the tea break and it will be around 30 minutes. I kindly make the participants to assemble as soon as possible, as there is a tempo with an energetic session. We'll maintain the tempo as such after the tea break too.
श्री धूतपापेश्वर श्री धूतपापेश्वर मना रहा है आयुर्वेद श्रेष्ठता के 150 से अधिक वर्ष। आयुर्वेद के माध्यम से स्वास्थ्य और सुख की स्थापना हेतु हम समर्पित रहे हैं और निरंतर रहेंगे। श्री धूतपापेश्वर आयुर्वेद श्रेष्ठता के 150 से अधिक वर्ष।
discussed with me certain hardcore points of this debate. Like, of course, we all know this Dinesh Chikitsa works, and a lot of researches are going on pertaining to this mantra and everything. But many students asked me how to get it in our public health, or how to get it in our real practice in clinic. This is the real question what the scientific people should address. For example, the translational research specialist is here. The basic slogan of translational research is that whatever your findings, there should be bench to bedside application for that. Bench to bedside application for that. And here, there is another curious finding what I saw, that by discussing the Dinesh Chikitsa, everyone is confining to mantra only. Everyone is confining to mantra only. This is a special affinity which can be seen in certain population. This is dangerous too. Because quitting our logic, if you are confining to mantra, we are turning to unscientific. Quitting logic, if you are confining only to certain ajaras, like mantra, we will turn to unscientific, and that is dangerous to Ayurveda. Rather, by putting the yukti, if you are approaching towards the mantra or any other techniques, that will be scientific. So here a special affinity to discuss about the mantra is, I am fearful that whether you are quitting your logic or not, and you are searching for something other than magical. In addition to that, there is Aushadhi, there is Upavasa, there is Mani, there is Mangala, there is Ubahara, there are Beli, there are several other things which has to be discussed, but everyone is so curious, expecting something which is magical from mantra, and many people are putting their research interest only on mantra too, because nowadays we should find it ourselves that mantra is a commodity right now. Mantra is a commodity. It is a product right now. And so there are several industries which are turning around the mantra. This will really spoil our scientific temper, especially while sitting in front of an Ayurveda community like this. Because the great legacy like Krishna Kumarji always kept his scientific temper with him while dealing with all these practices. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like Om Prakash sir to add to this.
Namaste. Actually, I think the discussions was getting a bit monotonous. As Dinesh sir said, there are many perspectives to that. First of all, I was trying to come to that. Here, a few questions were put forth by Dinesh sir also. And first of all, I wanted to mention that drishta, when we go to the that Dinesh and Sattvavajaya, in Ashtanga Hridaya it is mentioned beautifully. There he divides the vyadhi into three types. That is doshaja and karmaja, ubhayaja. Doshaja you understand with the hetu, with the upashaya and upashaya, you understand with the lakshana. Then how will you understand the karmaja vyadhi? Karmaja vyadhi, you understand, there is hedu bhirvina, vina hedu bhi, there is no reason. How can that be possible? Because without any reason, nothing happens. Always there is a cause and effect relation. So that cause we could not find with our logic. That is why that yukti I mentioned there. That yukti is Ayurvedic yukti, where you use our methodology. One more, my question was, we are using many healing mechanisms. There are Reiki, pranic healing is there, mantra healing is there, Kriya Yoga is there. Every one of them, any one or another way, anybody, any one of you will be getting benefit out of it. So my question is whether that is a science or a healing technique alone, or you are using along with Ayurveda. So, because you are standing in Ayurveda, you are standing as an Ayurveda physician, first you have to check the patient in that Hedubhi. That is classic way. Then after that, if it is not possible, whichever way you are familiar or whichever way is possible and whichever way you think it is apt, you go for Dinesh or Sattvavajaya Chikitsa. That is my opinion. And that way about that technique we have to discuss. And one more thing, as Dinesh sir was mentioning, the dangerous aspects of the knowledge. I said earlier that adhikarana is there. Definitely every shastra is having adhikarana. Adhikarana chadushtaya. Because somebody is the authority. Without authority, the knowledge will be heavily dangerous. Atomic the knowledge we know what happened. In Ashtanga Hridaya Sangraha, the sloka says, Shastram Shastrani Salilam. Shastram Shastrani Salilam Gunadosha Pravartaye Patranya Pekshande. Who deals with it is very, very important. So that authority has to be discussed. Many experts are there. My humble request is that that authority has to be discussed.
Thank you, sir, for your point of view. Aashish, sir, would you like to add?
First of all, we should be open to understand what science is, right? In English, we call it as science. In Sanskrit, we call it as Shastra, okay? Even if we accept the so-called norms of so-called Western methodology of science, or philosophy of science, forget even scientific fraternity, go to philosophy of science, okay? What they have tried to say that you have to do observation first, okay? You try to rationalize if you can, and then do that experiment again and again, and try to find out whether there is a reproducibility at various level, not by only one person, at various, different centers, multi-centric as we do in drug trials. So something like that, if it comes with some concrete outcome, with not only subjective, and I'm with you for that particular point, that it has to be something like objective and subjective parameter wherever possible. Now, he was speaking about energy and all. I have done a specific program, course, certification program in auric reading. Before that, I was not even believing, because I am also very difficult person like you. I just can't accept it. Yeah. So when I went and when I did it, and when I saw that, yes, you can see the chakra, you can see the auric field which are getting. And when I saw it on myself, I give my example, if time permits. They had given a chance to scan yourself with a particular gadget, and that photo was placed in front of all of us, those who were there as a student participants. And from those auric field, they tried to, infer. So they could see that particularly brownish or blackish or reddish zone at the lower chakra. And particularly towards anal region. Now, I was only knowing that I was suffering from piles that time, right? So I was amazed to see, how come? And we also did some experiments, like you think of a person to whom you don't like at all, and you give bad words in mind, and again see the auric field and see the changes. And when you just think of good, happy movement, forget about deity and all. I agree. If a person is atheist, if a person is not believing in God, okay. For them also, we have got methodology, right? So when you do that, and when you change the level of sattva in you, it reflects in your auric field. So this is proven. Only thing is, what happens is we are restricted with the boundaries of our own knowledge system. So we have to just step out and try to find out. With regards to that mantra you said, the very definition of mantra is the one who, by chanting, who helps you or saves you, right? So if that is the definition of mantra, how it can be dangerous? It will be dangerous provided you don't chant it right way. That part is correct. But to say it is pseudoscience or non-scientific, I think we have to think a little bit and take a pause, just do contemplation and come out with. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your views. Now, as Om Prakash sir mentioned about the Karmaj Vyadi, there's a question. Management of Karmaj Vyadi, as it has been told as ahetuk, is Yukti Vipashraya alone is used to treat these disorders. I would like to hear the opinions from Dr. Roshni ma'am, who is virtually here with us. I deeply apologize because Roshni ma'am is not connected due to the network issues. So any of the contemporary panelists would like to give their opinion. Management of Karmaj Vyadi, as it has been told as ahetuk, is Yukti Vipashraya alone is used to treat these disorders.
It is not only the Karmaja Vyadi. I told you in the initial opening remark that every disease is in need of all these three applications of therapeutics, out of which the Karmaja Vyadi, whatever entitled in our science, many of them are genetic diseases. Many of them are chromosomal diseases. Yukti Vipashraya has very minimal role in many times. But at the same time, according to the disease, we can apply a lot of other Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa and Sattvavajaya Chikitsa and many others, not only this. And I feel this discussion will be complete if the experts like Srivatsan sir, Murali sir, then Prasad sir are in front of us. I expect some comments from them also. Moreover, we have never touched two areas like ManasswAsthya and Sattvavajaya too. I request the panel or our moderator, Hema madam, to seek certain words from these stalwarts of Ayurveda from audience, it seems.
Basically, now salutogenesis is in the thing. So what exactly is salutogenesis? What exactly is ManasswAsthya? Are they similar? And how we are going to adopt Sattvavajaya Chikitsa in case of ManasswAsthya?
Yes, actually salutogenesis is not only the ManasswAsthya. The concept forwarded by Antonovsky during the 70s is the salutogenesis. If you are converting the total concept of the salutogenesis, it is nothing but swastha and swastavrta. The whatever be the activities which are pertaining to a single individual with his time, space and environment for the benefit of his health in toto is told as salutogenesis. The very same concept has been propagated even by the WHO in a special program. They have formed a special program which is called as Ottawa Charter. Ottawa Charter. And we have done one public health activity similar to that. So we have to manage the time, the environment where he or she lives, and you have to manage the psyche and soma simultaneously. Only then the health will be emerged. You cannot produce health, but it will be emerged as a product. This is the concept of salutogenesis. So there is no concept of ManasswAsthya. Actually, swasthya is a concept by which both mana and sharira and atma, everything should be included to produce a swasthya. There is no compartmentalization between sharira swasthya, ManasswAsthya, samuha swasthya. No, nothing like that. If you are managing the individual in such a way that in a particular time, environment, in a space, that will turn to salutogenesis.
Shall I say on this salutogenesis few words? See, salutogenesis, as he rightly mentioned, it is connected, madam. That's why I'm just mentioning it. It is, one need to go back in history and find out why and how this particular term has evolved, right? That gentleman has interviewed number of survivors of Nazi concentration camps, and all were females, mind well. And you see Schindler's List or many such movies, you will realize what the hell situation they were facing through. And in spite of that, in spite of maximum level of cruelty, You are not sure whether you will be alive in the next moment or not. But what they could survive because they believe that they have faith in their religion. Okay. And there is somebody who will take care of me in this situation also, and I'm going to go out of it. Now, when that has unanimously come out from all those candidates, then he proposed this particular salutogenesis. Now, salutogenesis you can understand better when you are comparing it with pathogenesis. So, pathogenesis is disease-centric, whereas salutogenesis is a wellness-centric. And our Ayurvedic basis is parallel to that. Yoga is parallel to that. So, in that sense, yes, salutogenesis concept, if we know, is good. How to utilize in Sattvavajaya or so? So in Sattvavajaya, since sir said it is only on Daivavyapasraya, so we should say something on Sattvavajaya also. So I'm not getting into the definition part and all those shlokas. You are master than all of us, right? You are in studentship. You have to write exams. Okay. But in Sattvavajaya, there are two principles which we try to inculcate. Is to increase Sattva level. Sattva is equal to Triguna wala Sattva. Sattva Rajatama is one part of understanding of Sattva, and the other Sattva is the synonym for Manas. Okay, so here we have to take both, not just one. Okay, and when you conquer that mind, when you conquest mind and go beyond, and then how to go beyond? It is easy to say. People say don't take stress. How to not to take stress? The moment, close your eyes for a while. Close your eyes, everyone. Close your eyes and don't see purple kangaroo. And what do you see? You see purple kangaroo. And that is what is our mind is playing with. So when we have to make that patient away from that stressor, then you have to use certain principles from Ayurveda and even from modern techniques. Okay. One of them is saying that you replace that earlier emotion with the better emotion. So they have given raga and harsha and all that. So how to, this is okay, this is given in the text, how to apply it. So for application, I found easy way when I learned NLP, when I learned psychotherapy, other kinds of there you first anchor that person with positive points. And then you ask him to get slowly sensitized towards whatever was. And then you can slowly and steadily can get over of it. One second, last. Then there is something known as Pratipaksha Bhavana in Yoga, Yoga Darshan. Vitarka Badhane Pratipaksha Bhavanam. That is the sutra. Now, when we do that, that is again same. In that, Patanjali Muni has said that you create opposite thought. And what differently mentioned by positive psychology? Same thing. NLP, same thing. So what actually, which has been mentioned by modern people is not alone scientific. Scientific is a different term which we need to understand in a different zone and a different aspect. So even our techniques, if we put it in a right, that will be of help. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Rishi, would you like to add something on this?
Not an addition to this, because there are 3 points that I wanted to conclude with before we moved on to this. So one is regarding the karmaja and its factor being ahetuka. The other one is money and aushadhi's relevance and the pandemic. So I thought I'll address this first. So when we talk about karmaja vyadhis and the concept of ahetuka, Acharya Charaka in his Sharirasthana gives a very beautiful explanation of rebirth. He says that the body that was you in the previous birth is not you. It's as simple as this. But what he's trying to say is that, now take this phone for example. Now if I was to take the memory card, format all of the data in it, put it into a new phone, can I say that it is the same person? No, it's not. It's taken a new body. And at the same time, the memories have been wiped out. But despite how much you try to wipe the memories out, you are left with the impressions, the vasanas of it, which in the context of this hardware, we call it as cookies. How much you try to delete it, you always have a trace memory. This trace memory or the impression plays a consequence or plays a role in the functioning of the new system. Say that if it carries a virus, that's exactly how your memory works and the vasanas are carried on. The previous body is not you. It's a new person. You are a new person. You are not the cause for your karmas. Instead, the soul or this atma, sorry, not the soul, the atma is a carrier, just like a memory chip into this new body and this new hardware. So when we say it is ahetuka because you cannot trace the memory or the factors which have caused it, but you're left with the impressions which are causing the conditions of your body. So then comes to the second one of money and aushadhi. So it's not just mantras which we talk about in the concepts of Devavyapasraya. So I've brought, in fact, two other substances, a literal money and a vacha. Both of these, modern science, modern research has showed that both of these have the capacity to generate electrostatic frequencies or electrostatic energy within the body. There are studies which have showed how dravyas which are rich in alkaloids, the vishadravyas, have capability to generate electrostatic fields within. And we know that the brain is one organ which sustains on electricity. In Yoga Shastra, there is a reference of using japa, mantra, and aushadhi as means of attaining peace. You are using electricity as means to play beyond your body, beyond physicality. And that's what this vacha and this parara is doing. And the third question of pandemic, how do we address pandemic in the context of Devavyapasraya or even Sattvavajaya, is that the pandemic wasn't a mere case of a virus spreading around and taking lives. It was a war on consciousness. As we all know, the whole pandemic, the major factor was a fear factor that played a major cause in the pathology. Most of the patients, 90% of the patients in my own experience, passed away due to the fear which was caused due to the media and the hospitalization that was done. And I believe that to rectify this or to fight against this, it's a war on consciousness that we have to play. While you have one sect of the society, one group that is playing with society and trying to suppress and play with them, basically by manipulating and creating a fear factor, there is another sect that is trying to uplift or empower mankind. So this is a war which is on a larger level of consciousness, and Sattvavajaya is where we can play a major role in the upliftment of human consciousness and awareness.
Thank you, sir, for your point of view.
One second, only on money, because I want to say, while getting this particular invitation, that there is a kind of, conference, I started rereading because I have done it much earlier when I was in undergraduate level. But I reopened Atharva Ved, and I was after that. And in the presentation, you can see if you are really keen. But you could see so many monies. For example, Trivruta and Yavamani. Okay. Then your Darbha Mani. Darbha Mani to anyway in pujas and all everybody is using, right? Then Shatavara Mani. Shatavari is Shatavari again. Then Shankha. Shankha's tukda. Shankha ka piece, and that is to be put to Manibandha. Then Rakta Gocharma Chidramani, Karira Muramani. So likewise, there are so many. I am not reading out all. Then there are discussion about Dhupan Dravya, and particularly they have given Gugula Dhupa for Pishacha Nivaran. Now again, there is a controversy whether there is a Pishacha, whether there is any external energy or not. We will not get into that. But they have mentioned about that. And secondly, the one which is more useful for us, our discussion, that for Kushta, they have suggested Kushta Dhupa. Now, quote, Sasurya Lapa. So that dhup I haven't come across, and I have started using. Right? There is a example of Lepana for Shvitra, and some of your Shvitra cases, they don't respond at all. So I sometimes see their Patrika, natal chart. And there are two ways of cross-checking their past with Jyotish. One is Bhrugu, and the another is Nadi Tantra, Nadi Patti, right? So in either you see, and sometimes you get, and one of them is suggesting that application of the lepa, which is containing our own Ayurvedic drug. So there is nothing harm. Only thing they say, let that patient chant or let someone chant for him, and in presence you apply this and see the results. I do get a lot of cases of diabetic retinopathy, retinitis pigmentosa, AMD, and left out cases from modern hospitals. Okay. So I mostly suggest them to do Chakshushyopanishad Patan. I say, if you can't do, just Google it. You will get it on YouTube. Listen at least. Aditya Hridaya Stotram. So if these things are done, I think that is useful. We were discussing, Dr. Vilankar sir is with us. So even he said that for Badha particularly. Now, whether it is Badha or whether it is maniac or bipolar, let us not get into it. But if a person is having that repeatedly in number of days or weeks, if you ask him to chant Ramraksha or the mantra of Ramraksha, it helps. It is seen, experienced by many. Hanuman Kavach or Hanuman Chalisa, Durga Kavach, or first 7 shlok of Sapta Shloki of Chandi part. So there are experiences, we have to pull those without bias. And if we don't do, someone else will do, and then we will follow it. So I think that is my plea. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your opinion. Now there's a question from audience. Agantuj has an impact in Sharir and Manas. So though initially it's external factor, eventually dosh are only vitiated. So Yukti Vipashraya plays prime role in Chikitsa and Daivavyapasraya is additional treatment. Share your thoughts about it. I would like Anantharam sir to answer. Agantuj has an impact in Sharir and Manas. So though initially it's external factor, eventually dosh are only vitiated. So Yukti Vipashraya plays prime role in Chikitsa and Daivavyapasraya as an additional treatment. Can you share your views on that?
Yes, of course. In my previous version also I have mentioned that there is always a importance for the Yukti Vipasraya because the basic understanding in Ayurveda is based completely on Tridosha theory. So we can't deny the involvement of doshas in the entire body mechanism, even it influences in the mind also. So whatever therapies, whatever modalities we advise to these diseases, either it may be manasika or sharirika, there should be some basic understanding based on the Tridosha theory. Okay, so Yukti Vipasraya always is structured in the format of Tridosha theory, but when it comes to the Daivavyapasraya, there is these kind of structuring based on Tridosha is lacking. That's what I mentioned in the previous also. So we need to develop, because if you see the Visha Vaidya, in Kerala it was very much prevailing, and my father was a Visha Vaidya also. So there was a very much good practices of Visha Vidya also. There are 2 practices in Agartandra, Visha Vaidya and Visha Vidya. Visha Vaidya is the complete Yukti Vipasraya, and in Visha Vidya there is the application of the Daivavyapasraya also. Okay, so but in this Visha Vidya also, they have the basic understanding based on the Tridosha theory. So based on the analyzing the Visha, which is affected to the patient, the mantra or the other practices of Visha Vidya is also practiced. So these kind of customization is lacking when we generalize the application of these Daivavyapasraya in the present scenario. So we have to make some customization. For example, Jwara. In Jwara Chikitsa, Sahasranama Archana is mentioned. Acharya was very clear that he is with a good scientific temper only he is mentioned that. Because it is mentioned in the Vishama Jwara. We cannot generalize that for all the Jwaras. So it is our duty, we have to make some these kind of customization based on the dosha of application of these kind of Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa.
Thank you, sir. I would like to answer with reference. Please, can you share, madam? The question is asked as, is dosha vitiation is something relevant to the Daivavyapasraya or not? This is a reference, Sushruta Samhita Uttar Tantra, chapter is Atisar Chikitsa. And after the explanation of Atisar, Sushruta has quoted these 3 sutras, that there are 3 types of vyadhi, karmaja vyadhaya kechit, doshaja santi chapare, karma doshod cha anye. Means some diseases are purely doshaj, some diseases are purely karmaj, and some diseases are mixture of karma and doshaj hetu. So how we can identify them? So in next sutra, it said that karmaja tu ahetukaha, nashanti tu akriyabihi karma sangshay. Means there are, if you find out the hetus of that disease, you will not find any kind of similar hetus who are causing that disease. And the treatment is, you will do anything, it will not vanish until an answer karmakshay will be there. So it will be vanish automatically. I have a student whose forehead has a white patch since birth, and he tried to do plastic surgery twice, but it failed. So when he came to Ayurveda, and I would in Padartha Vidyan the topic is came. So he came to me and said, "Sir, how can I cure this?" So I said, "This is your Purva Karmaja and you have to live with this only. Don't try to do any Chikitsa." So it is when the Karmaksha will be there, it is automatically vanish, or the whole birth he had to suffer with this. Next sutra, please go downward. Just 2 minutes. Huh? Shamyanti dosha sammuta dosha sangshayetu. Here you have to do only Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa. There is no adhikarana of Daivavyapasraya and Sattvavajaya here, because disease is purely doshas. You can find the proper hetu which is causing the disease. Next. Tesham alpanidana ye pratikashta bhavanti mrudovo bahudosha va karma dosha. How it karma dosha? So alpanidana pratikashta. They are alpanidana pratikashta. They are karma dosha janam. And mrudovo bahudosha. So, and his chikitsa is karma dosha. You have to do Yukti Vipashraya also and Daivavyapasraya also. So I think there should not be any fight between Daivavyapasraya or Yukti Vipashraya. This is a holistic approach. You have to perform all the treatment as per that patient is suffering from, the hetus and his lakshanas. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the references. Now, Dinesh, sir, would you like to respond to this?
No additional information. I have already shared all these things, but in the context of pediatrics, we maximum rely upon this karma javyadis, because as the scholar told, we cannot find out the reason if you are looking at the child only. But we can find out many reasons if you are looking into the genoplasm. So I do believe in my clinical practice, Purva Janma Kritam Pavam. It means that Purva Janma, my Purva Janma is my ancestors. So whatever the problems which have happened in the genoplasm of my ancestors, that may express in me as a disease. This is the realistic and the practical understanding what I am doing for management of such diseases.
Thank you, sir. What is Graha? What is Bhut? Is there any difference for this in Jyotishya Shastra and Ayurveda? Madhuri ma'am, would you like to answer, please?
Thank you. I will make it short. I will not recite any Kanthastha Sutra. I feel Ayurveda should be Rudhayastha. If it is not here, it's okay. So the Rudhayastha part I will say about the difference between Bhuta and Graha. Bhuta, everyone knows Panchabhautik, Panchabhuta, being that existed, that exist in simple terms. That is Bhuta. And Bhuta Vidya. Definition of Bhuta Vidya, I will come back after mentioning about Graha. Graha are what specifically mentioned in Bhuta Vidya definition. 8 Graha. Sushrut Samhita has mentioned 9 Graha. And what exactly is happening when Graha Bada? Bhuta Vidya is for treatment of what? So the definition we have to just decode in proper understanding. And that's why I said Chetana Dhatu. Clearly mentioned Bhuta Vidya Nama, Deva Sura, Yaksha Rakshaha, Pitru, Pishacha, Naga, Grahat, Upasrushta, Chetasam. And what we are doing by Bhuta Vidya? Grahopa Shamanartham. Chikitsa, Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa is in that aspect. Now we have to understand the terminology. The Ayurvedic terminology is like Graho, Bhuta. Many times Bhuta Bada we say autoimmune diseases I concerned. Our body is turning against ourselves. The Panchabhautik constitution of our cell is turning against itself. There is a glitch in the process, biological process. And that glitch is showing as a disease. It's not Agantuka or Nija also. There is a glitch in the process. Chetana Dhatu, why I am repeatedly saying it? Because Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa is for Chetana Dhatu. Chetana Dhatu is not something that is Adrushta. And even for Adrushta Karma, wherever Adrushta Karma is mentioned, Gangadhar Tika has mentioned Adrushta Karma is like our power, last lives karma. But I think from my perspective, nowhere I came across that the karma has to be your own as a jivatma. Even the loka karma. Again, I will be coming to loka purusha vaishamya. Why loka purusha vaishamya is happening right from Janopada Dhvamsa Adharma to Pradnya Parad. And again, one Vaidya has here said about while during pregnancy, if the things are happening, that could be adrushta karma. No, that is pradnya parat. In this life, whatever karma we are doing and it is coming to us, visiting us again as some kind of glitch in our process or as a disease, then it is due to pradnya parat. Clear cut mention, pradnya parat. Adrushta karma is definitely about past karma, not just one's own, but our whole communities, whole societies. We are facing loka vaigunya, loka guna vaigunya. Why? It is not our karma. The past generations, they committed some karma, and now fourth generation, fifth generation down the line, we are facing that pollution, and that because of that vayu pollution, we are having more psychological diseases. And one more thing I want to say, bhuta, graha, here, since Charak is a Charak Samhita is totally based on Yukti. If there is any disease, then we have to look for the cause. But every time we cannot find the cause, hetu. At that time, there is no diagnostic test or anything like that. So they assume, because if we have to treat someone, what are we treating? Especially Sattvavajaya, specifically mentioned Nidana Pariva. If I don't know what is causing the disease in me, I will not be able to counteract on that from Sattvavajaya part. If we don't know what is causing the current problems on the community level, we will not know what exactly we have to treat, because Chikitsa is not only about one individual. Ayurveda has that holistic approach. Whenever we are saying holistic, it's about the health of whole community. And that's why we always say complete holistic well-being. Only me being healthy and happy is not going to work from me if the community around me is not healthy and happy. And that's why we talk about holistic well-being aspect. And Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa is just one part. Vayu, Mahabhuto, Bhuto, Vayu, if it is going here and there, we know how the psychology gets disturbed. And Ashtanga Hridaya has clearly mentioned, Ye Bhutagni Vayu, Agni Kshata Bhanga, and Kama Krodha Bhayadi, Syu Agantavaha Bhavati. Now these are Agantu Vyadi, Kama Krodha Bhaya. So we have to look at Loka Purusha Samya, how to restore that Samyata, then only we can be psychologically healthy, we can say. Because one person psychologically healthy, it is not going to be a sustainable part, because it's a dynamic balance of health is always between me and the world around me, and us and the world around us. This is in short my. And Chetasam Upasrushtata. Now here, I haven't come across any interpretation. Chetana Dhatu, no one talks. Modern one talks about consciousness, unconsciousness. Modern ones are completely confused. They don't have a definition of Atma, unlike Charak Samhita. They don't have a definition of Mana, unlike Charak Samhita. Last point. Mana, Atma, Chetana Dhatu, Charak Samhita has clearly defined what are their karma, what are their qualities. Everything is perfectly defined. And examination, again I will come to EBM based scientific basis. Nyaya Shastra has said Uddesha, Lakshana, and then Parikshana. Uddesha, let us assume we are relearning. We have forgotten the knowledge that was. What is the proposal here? Name the thing that we are observing. That is Uddesha. Then Lakshana. Now try to understand the uncommon features of the things that we are observing. And that will be the defining parameters. And then Parikshana. What is Parikshana? It is the examination of the congruence between the defined and the definition. And Charak Samhita has clearly defined what is Daivavyapasraya, what is Tridosha. And Daivavyapasraya is for Sharira Dosha. For Mano Dosha, I will not say Sattvavajaya is a part also, but it's not even for Mana. Because there is one more stream, you cannot treat Mana. Because Manasa is a Karana Dravya. We can only treat Panchabhautika problems with Panchabhautika Chikitsa. And even Shabda in a mantra, it's like we are using Vayu Guna Shabda or Spandana or vibrations as a part of Chikitsa. That's in short. I hope I'm trying to able. One more thing. Upasrushtata. Sorry, I'm over. What is Upasrushtata? What is Chetananam Upasrushtata? Let me quote one example, which we have seen in last 3-4 years. Someone says, this is causing this disease, this is causing this disease, then everyone says, yeah, this is causing this disease. No one has done the parikshan. No one has understood. No one has tried to understand. Let us assume it is an adrishya hetu. The patients are coming to us. They are asking now what to do. We can't tell them go for shortcut and just take the vaccine. So okay, let's start with the Divavyapasraya part as much as you can understand, as much as I can practice with my understanding and adhikara. And that worked perfectly fine. Honestly speaking, it may sound like I'm biased, but that is what I observed. And after that observing, I'm trying to understand. Then Lakshana, I found in the Charak Samhita, Grahabhada, Ashtanga Hruday, beautifully explained what is Grahabhada. Sushrut Samhita, especially Uttar Tantra Grahabhada part, the 9 grahas, everyone must understand and decode if they want to be the best pediatrician in Ayurveda. Because what we are not learning, because it is in Sanskrit, someone like Dr. Bruce Lipton is decoding. He is talking about Divavyapasraya Chikitsa, Chetana Dhatu, and he is renaming it as epigenetics reprogramming. Divavyapasraya is like reprogramming our own systems. Our systems are getting in disbalance because of Prajnaparat and because of Adrushta Karma. And how to reprogram them. Until 7 years of one's life, one can be reprogrammed because that is the point of time till when we are working from a subconscious level. And programming ourselves at least after 7 years of life, we really need it. That's why we have Divavyapasraya Chikitsa is my short. So as to reduce the upasrushtata on chetasam. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your opinion.
Shall I say one thing on graha? When we say graha, we should be open, and bhuta particularly. Sattam anubhavanti sahatu iti bhuta. The one which you can experience but you can't see. So that is bhuta. Bhu bhavanti iti bhuta, which are there existing since long and you cannot trace out from where it has begun, where it will end. That is again bhuta. That is with specific reference to Panchamahabhuta. But when it comes to these bhuta, it can be understood in 2 ways, according to me, since we are product of 10 plus 2, as sir very rightly said. Another connotation of bhuta is the one which is sukshma, the one which is not gross, sukshma. So we can say bhuta vidya could be possibly, again, it will be a point of debate whether it was really there and what kind of, okay, fine. But there are explanation and mention about various microbial organisms in our own languages. Will not get into the nomenclature per se. So that is there. And actually badha, which we see that child is not getting benefited through best of best pediatrician in the city or in the close by area. And in certain times, I have got one reference from Niganta Ratnakar. And they have said that if it is happening at full moon, then it is Devagraha, morning and night, or Sandhikal particularly, then it is Asuragraha. Then Ashtami, it is Gandharvagraha. Then Pratipada, that is Yakshagraha. Likewise, they have given. Now again question would be raised, have you ever confirmed it? No, I have not. Because my basic practice is not alone pediatrics. But those who are into pediatric practice, and if such kind of cases we get, then with coming together with open minds, I think we can work on this. But one need to know a little bit of Jyotish for that, right? And what Abhijit sir said that cannot be removed. I have seen in number of cases that by doing certain karma, which they have discussed in the Upashama, it has started showing results, it has regressed, in some of the cases it has gone. So again, there is a point of debate which we will not get into, but what I think we should accept from either side and come to some final conclusion, making some possible protocol which is not dangerous, as sir said, and which is also found out to be effective, why not to explore? That is my view. Thank you.
Dhanyavada, Aashish ji. Okay, 1 minute to Abhijit for a comment on Bhuta, and then I want to interact with all of you students.
Thank you, madam. If you go through the kosha meaning of Bhuta and Graha, Graha means to capture something. The Graha means not the Mangal, Buddha, Shukra. And Bhuta means Sukshma viruses, like just Aashish Phadke Sarji said. It is not related to any Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa. Bhuta and Graha. Bhuta Vidya is not only Daivavyapasraya. All the, what is Bala Graha? All the infectious diseases in children are called as Graha, Bala Graha. So there are mainly Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa in Graha Bada also, Bhuta Vidya. That is one of the 8 anga, one of the ashtanga of Ayurveda, Bhuta Vidya. We are totally neglected that anga. And it is nothing else, only infectious diseases. Yes, there can be some kind of shaktis, like sir said, but they are not, we will not speak about this right now. If you go through the Kashyap Samhita's Balagraha or Sushrut Samhita's Balagraha, they are, if you copied it with the modern sciences, all are the infectious symptoms regarding the children's. Next, one thing, madam is quoted that this is holistic approach. Again, I will have to emphasize that. Don't try to separate these things. You have to do partially or mutually with each other. I have many experiences about Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa and Sattvavajaya also, but one thing should we have to keep in mind, that not every Ayurvedic scholar has a capacity to perform Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa. If you have a kavach of sadhana, then only you can perform Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa. I have seen so many bad experiences that a person who is eating anything, drinking anything, and try to do Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa, he has to suffer because of the treatment. Vaidya has suffered. That's why if you have sadhana, if you have that kind of blessings from your guru or Shakti, then only try to perform Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa. Otherwise, only focus on Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa till you get that blessings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abhijit. And the claps, at least the students are wide awake now, right? Yes? Okay, now this is your time. They would continue speaking for next 3 days if they are here, and we'll also continue speaking if we are here, right? We have so much to share with all of you. But now this is your time. We want you to speak. Yeah, sure. Come.
I asked for the mic to just raise a question which I feel was completely unaddressed throughout the discussion. Actually, Dinesh sir actually raised those questions in the beginning of the discussion, but they were left unaddressed, undiscussed. And I don't think he meant, when he said the mantra about the dangerous thing about the mantra, I don't think he said that mantras are dangerous. He just said that confining the Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa to mantras only, that thought is dangerous. I think that's what he meant. And along those lines itself, I want to raise my question. We know that Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa is effective. We see a lot of examples of that. We learn about the mantras, we learn about money, everything. And we could practice it and see that it works too. But I think the most of the delegates here are around my age. And after studying BAMS, we are going out into a society that people of our age and lesser than our age, and we are going to deal with those people. And I'm seeing those people around me, and I'm seeing a lot of atheists. I'm seeing a lot of scientific, so-called modern scientific people. So, however, we can have all discussions about the scientific temper behind the mantras, everything over here. That's all very nice and very interesting. But when we go out into the society, we are going to be dealing with people who are accustomed to the modern scientific view and who may find it difficult to digest all these concepts about mantras, everything. So, and also many of the science behind the mantras, everything, some of them are Indriyatita. We may never be able to establish it through scientific research. Maybe it is possible. My question is, shouldn't we be more concerned about learning the Devavyapasraya Chikitsa properly and applying it to the people in disguise, or without having to explain the things, or without making it look like some kind of magic or voodoo stuff? Shouldn't we be more concerned about learning how to apply it to the people? Even to an atheist, we need to learn how to apply the Devavyapasraya Chikitsa to an atheist. So how can we address that issue?
Thank you so much. And the claps are saying this was a question in many of your mind, right? Many of you had this. How many of you have been to Isha or Sri Sri Ravi Shankar's Art of Living? Please raise your hands. At least whenever I have been there, I have been very surprised to see only young population. In fact, most of you may call yourself an atheist, but you are turning to deep spiritual answers in your life. Right? Yes or no? And you don't have enough adults around you to maybe give you the right answers. However, you are seekers. All of you really are seekers. And this question exactly was that. I would request, I think Rishi, being the youngest, is the right person to answer this question. Thank you. Rishi, all yours.
This was a question that I had when I completed my graduation as well. And I began to learn Siddhanta, my guru. And one little concept that I would like to bring in picture over here is, when we look at, and I'll explain why I'm even talking about this. There are sequence in our worship methods. There are a lot of people who question idol worship within the religious spectrum. Those who have sadhana, those who practice, some of them are against the worship of idols. So why do we worship idols? And what is the sequence? What is the significance of it? Is that it's a starting stage. It's for you to basically understand something abstract through something perceivable. Once you go beyond that, you start to worship the yantra, which is a more abstract concept of the idol, but it is between the total abstract or the inconceivable and something that is visualizable. And finally, when you transcend or realize or begin to understand what it is trying to signify, you begin to worship the complete picture of reality, which is not in a physical form, not a yantra, not in the form of an idol either. This is the same thing that we should do as Vaidyas. All the means and methods that are given in our text are for the Vaidya who is unable to perceive, but who can use objective means and tools. So the yantras, the money, mantra, aushadhi, all these are merely tools for you to utilize. So if you are really concerned or really, really enthusiastic and determined to practice these in your, say, clinical practice, become the medicine. You become the money, you become the aushadhi, you become the mantra. Then you don't need any tool. Just your presence, just your voice, just your sound, just your touch is capable of doing the Devavyapasraya Chikitsa. And I think that is where we need to evolve as Vaidyas. And so that is when, you don't need tools. You don't need to explain anything. Just your presence alone is more than enough to create the Devavyapasraya Chikitsa. I think if you're determined to practice it, we should personally evolve. So you don't need to explain anything to anyone. You become the medicine.
Let me add a little addendum to what Dr. Rishi said. Trija Vaidya, Dvija Vaidya. We can't be just Vaidya or doctor who doing only clinical practice. Ultimately, Ayurveda is not like a modern healthcare system. Ayurveda is for our own growth, our own soul evolution also. And if we keep ourselves in focus and learn Ayurveda, then we understand it better. And that's the journey for being from a doctor to Vaidya, Vaidya to Dvija Vaidya and Trija Vaidya. And then Siddha Sadhita, the best Vaidya can only be Trija Vaidya. So this is a personal journey as a sadhaka. Thank you.
I just want to add one line. Everyone should follow guideline which Dr. Abhijit sir has given. It is very valid. I am sorry, I missed out. But I think I have spoken that you have to have paranda, you shouldn't have paranda, you have to follow niyama, you should do sadhana, you should have blessing of Guru. That is very important. Another very important thing is, I have seen after doing hypnotherapy or past life regression therapy, you tend to get stimulated to look that only. That is a problem. That is a problem, a real problem area. So you see any patient, you think, oh, this is to PLR. No, we have to first restrict to our rational way only and only when it is not helping out or not showing any changes, refractory cases. And if you have that kind of expertise, or if you have someone to help you out, then and then only you can venture. And I think my understanding of having this particular session to all you as a student, that in our studentship we never had chance to get into that depth of Daivavyapasraya or Yuktivyapasraya or Sattvavajaya per se. But if you get sensitized at this level, may it be third level, may it be fourth level. So some of you, not 150, everybody will get into it. Maybe one or maybe two. If you have got that capacity, and if you go ahead, then I think maybe of them, someone could get specialized. I'm sure Manas Rog, there are many RCTs. I've seen, I've put to my presentation. So many RCTs are there with Chikitsa. You may it be Sattvavajaya, may it be Daivavyapasraya. So things are moving, but it is moving in a slow pace. So we should not ridicule it. We should not just strike it off, but we should be open. Like, our receptors should be open. So that whatever new thing comes should get inside, analyze that. And if you feel, yes, it is really making sense, you may go ahead with. Thank you.
Hello. I would like to draw some of the philosophical aspects of this discussion. I think me and my friend Bharadwaj was discussing that the entire discussion now turned into centered around the Daivavyapasraya. Maybe that can be considered as a power of God or not, we cannot say. But what interesting is, when we are considering the evolution of what we contemporarily consider as the worldview or our approach towards what considered as a science, that also has a deep influence of how the science has engaged with the religion that was established, whether we call it as Semitic religion or what in way. So the important thing is that how the anthropocentric position that the worldview established in seeing view or the world or the reality, especially centering human being as in ultimate power, has came out from the philosophy or came out from the direct contribution to it from the religion in the science. So that we are seeing the encounters that the human being having with the direct conflict with the nature, our process of development, our activities that really impact in the diversity, all can be considered as the consequence of this anthropocentric view. So it is important to say that what is our reference perspective to consider what is contemporary, in the settings of what we consider as a science or how we are positioning science in a certain way. So that we see that, historically, there was no scientist. There was natural philosophers. Even we see the historical evolution, there was only natural philosophers were existed. Even when we see the reference of a great historian, Lawrence Principe, I would encourage everybody to go through his works and video if possible. What Lawrence Principe is put forward is our popular narrative that the bio or the Western science has a conflict towards the religion, and it's always a position itself alienated from the religion is a wrong narrative. Because even we see that when the Darwin has proposed evolution, there was acceptance from the theologians, and there were acceptance and their mutual contributions were there. One of the instances is that there was a popular theological narrative that the evolution is consistent with the theological aspect. For example, how the lower species has been developed. They were saying that how the Christ has turned water into the wine. So there were many interesting observations. So it is the narrative that has been built later on to segregate, and to position science in a certain way that science and religion are in a definite conflict, and that needs to be a reference point. So to draw that line into the contemporary scenario, as I would like to propose that our entire worldview itself, comes up with the parcel and parcel of the anthropocentric view. So that itself is a contribution of the what we consider as a religion. So what is important is that can we have another philosophical possibilities deriving what we consider as a spirituality in other culture to engage with these discourses of anthropocentric view? And also Descartesian concept of segregating mind and body. Can we have another lines draw upon in order to come with which can be many universal aspect also to see where this conflict exists in the contemporary view and to draw a better lines in between. But it must be based on a very deep consensus, because contemporary what we are considering as the Daivavyapasraya or a religion can segregate many people from accessing into healthcare, and also it characteristically it produces certain approach that everything is answerable within a paradigm or within a textbook that we carry. So that is the problem, that the contemporary aspect of the religion that is encompassed with the aspect of the Daivavyapasraya. So I am summarizing in a certain way that, as Einstein also had this view, cosmological religion. So can we draw upon with certain cultures or certain practices of how we consider as a spirituality in order to draw some lines which can be universally acceptable? So, and in order to engage with the discourse of anthropocentric or what we considered as the conflict between mind and body, and how it can be incorporated in the therapeutic benefits and how we approach the body. So I think we need to rebuild ourselves in order to see how it can be made into imperatives, which can be a standard, how we can contribute into the better science and understanding and describing reality and the world better. Thank you.
See, there are basically, if you see the definition of philosophy, is philo and sophy, love for knowledge, right? So it is not restricted to any region or country or culture or whatever. It is we went much ahead than those philosophers. I have done MA in philosophy, gold medalist from Mumbai University. Yeah. But then major problem in Western philosophy and Indian philosophy is that they are not sure to whom to call consciousness. They are saying consciousness equal to mind also, interchangeably. And then the problem starts. Whereas if you see our Shad Darshan, or particularly Vedanta, which is the culminating of all darshanas, then these questions are really relevant. But one can have exercise, mental exercise, and in a nicer way, because if we don't do, then someone else will do. So we should not shun away from even reading and then going ahead with. Madam, I would request all seniors, as Dinesh sir has also mentioned, we would like to know from them, sir, because we are also coming from far away. So one minute, 2 minutes, that will be great. That is my request.
Prasad sir has some points to share.
I was sorry, I won't take much time. I was just wondering, or I was seeing the issue from the perspective of the students, because they were actually, yesterday onwards, they were quite scared how we are going to complete the Yuktivyapasraya Chikitsa completely. Then now, today there is an extra burden of now we have to learn Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa and Sattvavajaya Chikitsa also. So that is why they are all silent. But anyway, I think, see, anybody who is accepting the Sharira Indriya Sattva Atma as the base of life will have to accept the concept of Sattvavajaya Chikitsa and Yuktivyapasraya Chikitsa, no doubt about it. And those who learn the basics like Tesham Kaya Mano Bhedad Adhishthanam Abhidvidha, there also I think we will have to accept the role of Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa and the Sattvavajaya Chikitsa. See, looking into the definition of our swastha, samadosha, samagnischa, samadhadu, malakriya, prasannatmendriya manaha, that segment actually forms the realm or the domain of a consciousness, including the mental well-being and everything. So obviously you will have to attend it for at some point or the other in order to make the person swastha. There is no doubt about it. But there are some conflicting ideas behind it. whether it can be put into the public health, or whether it can be, as Dr. Dinesh was rightly asking, there is a core question, no doubt about it. But what I would say is, see, whether the Vaidya believes in a God, or an atheist or a theist, or somewhere in between, actually that is not going to be a big issue. We need not bother about it. The problem is whether the person sitting in front of you, who has come to you seeking some help in healing his disorder or disease or whatever it is, whether he has got some inclinations towards these aspects or not, that really counts, even in the public health sector or otherwise. And if he is into these aspects of whatever it is called, there is a God, there is a fate, there is destiny, there is a karma, there is, I think you can use it in a wise way and in an intelligent way, using your yukti, and put that aspect for the wholesome well-being of that individual. That is where we have to state that Tishtat Yubari Yuktijnaha. The Vaidya is going to be the Yuktijna at that point of time. And we can quote, see, Abhijit ji was quoting many things. Some other may be able to quote the other side also. It is like Mahabharata, because it has got space everywhere. See, at one point we find that, okay, this graha or that Bhuta graha or Unmada, we will find Agantaja Unmada. But even Charaka is trying to find some sort of a consensus in between. Ultimately, these are all going to be Pratnyavarataja. At one point, he is saying, Atmanameva manyeda kartaram sukha dukkhayoho. And he repeats, what is that? Pratnyabaradhal sambhude vyadhau karmaja atmana nabhishamsed budho devan na pidrun na virakshasan. Don't blame them. It is your deed which is going to be counted. So I think there is one book by Dharampalji, and that I hope you might have read, Bharatiya Chitta, Manas and Kala. Bharatiya Chitta, a small book. Bharatiya Chitta is the title. Then there's Manas and Kala. So how the Indian population has conceived all these things in their mind, that is going to be of very critical importance as far as the intervention is concerned. We are talking about the scientific temper, we are talking about the public health domain. These are all important. But at one point, you should accept one thing, that see, all those who are living in the scientific domain these days are living with the fear that they may be getting outcasted and labeled as unscientific at any point of time for some or the other deeds from their side. So nobody is talking frankly, nobody is doing anything frankly. This is a big issue. And one important thing is, see, in this Bharatiya Chitta and Kala, he is explaining how we have conceived all these ideas for centuries. Whether there is a principle of a karma, whether there is a principle of Purva Janma, and how all these things are going to be affecting the person who is sitting in front. So definitely an intelligent Vaidya should be able to use all these potentials and put it in his practice, so that ultimately the person on the other end is benefited. And another thing is, see, through the years of advanced public health and scientific temper, you see the places of worship in India over years are increasing. I'm not supporting that, or I'm not against it. I'm somewhere in between, indifferent. But it is a fact. And I don't think that any of the places of worship has closed down in India for the sake of becoming more scientifically tempered. So I think, as rightly mentioned by my friend Skandesh, I think we will have to start rethinking our basic perceptions. But at the same time, you cannot insist that, okay, you should be an utmost believer, then only you can practice Ayurveda. Sarva dharmeshu madhyamam may be better, but you should always use the potential to make the other person better, healthy and swastha. Thank you.
Gurubhyo Namaha. At the outset, let me thank the organizers for the recognition, and I put it as in the feet of Krishna Kumarji, who had been instrumental in giving me a stage anyway. Now, I would like to differ a little from the whole deliberations in the way that I think if we sit with Ayush Kamiyam itself, it is enough. I think. Any of those things I have got from Murli sir. I remember Shankaracharya Mahapada. Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam Modamade. Samprapte Sannihide Kale Nahi Nahi Rakshadi Dugrunji Karane. Let us not make the whole subject so complicated, is what I believe. As a continuation of Dr. Prasad, I tell that once you understand what is a body, mind, and this thing, what is life, and what is a Chedanavat Chikitsa Adhikrita Purusha, then you know that we cannot deal anything separately even while thinking. I differ from the opinion that when Yukti Vipashraya fails, then you go and search for Sattvavajaya and Daivavyapasraya. No, practically as a Vaidya, when somebody is coming to you for medicines, you give medicines because their mantra will not work. That is the only thing. But it is up to this that Sugartha Sarva Bodhanam Mada Sarva Pravarteha Sugamchana Vina Dharma Tasmat Dharma Paro Bhavet. Whenever somebody is in dukkha, he comes for Saukya only. He comes come to the Vaidya for Sukha. When he is coming for Sukha, you have to give Sukha. What are all the methods which has been told to remove the dukkha? So Sukhavastha is the sthayi, Swasthata is the sthayi bhava, Prakrita bhava. From that Prakrita bhava, when the Vikriti occurs due to many reasons, as we have put, whether it is Drashta Hetu or Adrashta Hetu, dukkha occurs. Now he is coming there to see you to get this Sukha. So here we have to think of one thing, that when it comes for Vyavahara, the cultural, social, economical, environmental, all these factors have to be taken into account when you are treating a patient. I am from Palghat only, so I deal with Tamil patients and Malayalam patients. When a patient comes, he is from Tamil Nadu. If I speak in Tamil, he is so enjoyed. Oh, doctor knows Tamil. When I speak in Malayalam, he knows that he is very welcoming. Okay, now my problem can be understood by this. Right from there, simple this thing like a person has to, how to behave. It's not for Vaidya also. Purva Abhivashi Sumugaha Sushilaha Karuna Mrudu. So once that is there itself, you know that the treatment has started. You have started your Sattvavajaya. You have started this treatment. This is as a Marma Vaidya. I tell that if I ask every student that is pain or Vedana, which is the symptom of the identification point of Marma, is it a physical thing or a psychological or a somatic thing or a psychic thing or what it is? You have to always know that it is a psychosomatic situation. You cannot separate. Why do we think in a separate way? So that is why we are addressing the manas of the patient first, because manas is the related to vada, the prana, and that is the niyanta pranayata. So what way we want to take the patient, what way we want to make the correction in the patient, we start with the manas only. There is no doubt about it. Patient's antaratmanam pravishya. You have to enter into this thing. You have to know from which culture he is coming, which social situation he is coming, which environment, kala, desha, he is coming. So that is what we learned that. So when we have to apply, there the basic things, one or two things I would, if the time is there, I will just tell, is that what are the qualities of a Vaidya? We were discussing yesterday also, like. Once a Vaidya is Dakshaha, Tirthartha, Shastrartha, Drashtakarma, Shuchihi, Vishak. I was telling that he has to become first Suchi, a Vaidya has to become a Shuchi. He has to be having Sharirika Shuchi, he has to have Manasika Sujitvam. Manasika Sujitvam is nothing but, I think, everybody knows that. Rajas tamascha manaso docha dosha udahardo. If the doshas are not there, the sthayi sattva is there. When that is there, you know that whatever knowledge you are making through your, when that knowledge which has been made, Aptavachana, you are learning, then that is having no bias. You are a free thinker. You are not biased because of your religion, you are not biased because of your culture, you are not biased because of your social situation or desha, kala, etc. So in that avastha, when you have drishta karma, when you are under a group of gurus or a guru who is doing things, showing things, then you know that he gets on a very, very placid platform of buddhi, he sees what is being done because he has to perform it. And that makes him Tirthartha Shastra Artha, and so he ends up as a Daksha. Wonderfully, we have to see that the same Daksha is there, we are discussing now in Paricharaka, because he is the one who carries what the patient wants, the doctor wants to. Even if the doctor tells that, okay, to address you to the physiotherapist has to do the thing what has been intended by the one. So, there we see that Anuraktaha. So, the Anuraga is there told. Why? Again, the patient is, I am a massier, I am being a marma massier. I am a giver and there is a taker, there is a receiver. If my intention and the receiver's intention are not in coordination, then we know that the result is not to be there. So Anuraktaha, he has to be Anurakta. Shuchihi, Daksho. Buddhiman Parijaraka, he has to employ, he has to execute it, so he has to have Buddhiman. Hey, and Buddhiman is to see that not to speak to the Malayali patient in Tamil and Tamil patient in this one. That is the Buddhi. What is his habit, he has to know, etc., etc., etc. What the Vaidya intends, etc. And so here, when we are talking about Yukti Vipashraya, maybe, no, Daivavyapasraya and Sattvavajaya, over Yukti Vipashraya, we may leave the Bahugunam, Sambandham, Yogim, Aushadam part of the Aushadam. Here the Aushada, there we have to know that, again, it is without being told, it is in Sutra Vachana. When I apply it to massage therapy, the 4 things, they have the 16 kalas or of the 4 Chatushpadas, that has to be taken into account. Where I can tell in terms of Ayurvedic massage. But when we take in terms of Yukti Vipashraya and Daivavyapasraya also, the same thing, Bahugunam, Bahukalpam, Yogim, Aushadam, only my mantra is correct, my money is correct, my this thing. There is a logic behind it. There is no separation between, I know that when Pravala has to be used, Pravala has to be used, where Pravala has to be used, it is used. How it has to be used, whether it is Mantra Yukta or it's simply wearing that. It's all because you have to be able to do Bahu Kalpanam of the same tools or the different tools which are there in these things. So, you know that, and ultimately, you cannot leave in the Chatushpadas, leave the Rogi also. The Rogi is in front of you as Prasads are told. Ultimately, it is for the Rogi which you are doing. Atyo Rogi, Bishak Vashyaha, Nyabakaha, Sattvanabi. See, the 3 qualities there are related to the Manas and Atma. Before that, we have to remember that he has to be Bishak Vashyaha, Nyabakaha, Sattvanabi. When I tell to my students, I usually tell that a Vaidya, as a Vaidya, you have to be a Vashikarana Vidagda. You have to have that Vashikarana Shakti. That is what I think Rishi also told, that you develop your Vashikaranatum. What is Vashikaranam? When you instruct something for the good of the patient, he is ready to accept it. That should be the thing. So actually, Vaidya should have not Daksha Tirthartha Shastrato Drishtakarma. He should be a Vashikara also. Students, for your sake, I am telling, all the scholars over here know that. For the students here. So, first of all, if you have to become attractive, what you do dress well, you put your hairdo or whatever it is like that. You have to mind do also. Regarding Ayurveda, you are going to a practitioner. I am a practitioner, I am a scholar, I am one who knows it. I can deliver that stuff. Once you are having that, you do your own Sattvavajaya first. Or we have to do our own Sattvavajaya first. And then once we do that, we know that whoever is having Alpa Sattva who is coming to you, you can give a part of your Sattva. That is why he has told that Vishak Vashyaha, Jnapakaha, he has to remember, because Prajnabrada, again, he should not commit. And Prajnabrada, when he is not committing, for that, he has to be Sattvavan. So Sattvavajaya is the first thing which starts in any Chikitsaka. Even if he tells that I am a Yukti Vipashraya, I tell that if he is a successful practitioner, he is starting with the Sattvavajaya only. And that is the way, because some patients go with pain to some doctors, the pain is not relieved. The same medicine, same this thing is given by another doctor, it works. So that is the thing. And then every method is to compound on what has to be done. Now for children's sake, or students' sake, I will just come to what Dinesh sir and myself are all of Kotakalians who are very practical in this one also. So I tell that this Bhuta was discussed over here. Bhuta was discussed. Hey, Bhuta Vishavayog Nishada Bhagnan Sambhavat. I'll just relate one research, small, cannot call it research, but a search, we can call it, of a drug which has been told as Dupana. Now, Dupana, if you discuss whether Dupana Karma is a Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa or Yukti Vipashraya Chikitsa, what will be the answer? You'll have to know that everything is like that. Even water, if you are doing japa and giving, it has dravya in that. Why, students, please understand that we consider the manas and atma, bhutatma as dravya only. There is a dravyavat bhava, whether it is ati sukshma or stula makes the thing different, whether it is murta or amurta. Here one thing I tell that during the COVID period, I was having an opportunity of serving as the district program manager in Thrissur district. So the collector was, it's a social issue. You know that it's a social issue. All were called. Usually Ayurvedic people will be skulking off. That time I told that I am also there. Many of the people from Thrissur knows, Dr. Prasad knows that. And then we proposed that the Kerala government was, before itself, during chikungunya, during dengue, and all had been supplying through the ISM, Abarajita Domachurna. Abarajita Domachurna. Now I will tell you a social thing, which Skandesh also will be appreciating, I think, that now what happened, this has been told in Vishama Jara as a Nuvati. Dupana, when it is done, it will be Jara Mukti will be there. So the same thing had been used in dengue fever, in chikungunya epidemics, etc. It was being given all mass, this one. Again, somebody, Dinesh was asking about what is the social impact on it. When we organize, we can see that there are many examples, like when you do it at your home, it is your job. But when we asked everyone in the village to do it at the same time, 6 o'clock in the evening, between 6 and 7, the impact was environmental, it was corrective environment. So one thing I tell that this Abharajas Domanchurnam, of late, in the last 4 or 5 years, in Kerala had become Kodugu Podi. That is a mosquito repellent. And one of the companies also put a mosquito sign on this one also. It is good. Kida. With Buddha also, it removes Kida. So how we can rate our things by wrong rating or minimize it also. So every person coming to the OP will ask for Kodugu to remove to keep away the mosquitoes. That powder is there now, like that. But I will wish to tell you that we studied it. I told that all the modern people who were in this one were against Ayurvedic people intervening. So I just put up a memo to the collector that, okay, we will do on so many migrant laborers are there. And according to the government, this thing, it was only 2,000 or something. But our machinery went into ISM. All the medical officers went into and searched. And there were more than 23,000 migrant laborers in Thrissur. And you know that they were all living they used to live in this one only for 8 hours in a day. And their apartment will be, you know that, it will be like a train bogie. 6 people in that bogie space, which you know, compartment space. Like that only they are. And they were all during the shutdown forced to be inside. They cannot go out also. They have to cook, they have to eat, they have to shit, everything there. So I told, this is the best way I thought. And I told the collector that, sir, give me a chance. We will see the physical hygienic condition of all these migrant labor colonies. And then we went into it. Assured that good water is there, good food is given, etc., etc., etc. First. Second, then we got the appreciations. And then second, I told that, now give me a chance. We have this Abarajita Dhumachurna, which I want that there should not be, when the whole medical crowd is behind COVID, I want that nobody should suffer from dengue or chikungunya or any diarrhea or cholera, because they are all put up like that. Then he told that, okay, you can go ahead. Like I discussed with the medical college people, the DMO and all, and then proposed a study which was only 9 days. Children, I believe that very big establishment is not needed when you have the mind. 9 days study only. I thank Dr. Jose Paikada of the ISM department and the DMO also for that, because he had made his son do it in the Kendriya Vidyalaya as a school project. So what we did was 3 days, the microbiologist from Sitaram Pharmacy was engaged. They volunteered. The culture was done. The plates were kept and the culture was, air samples were collected. And after 3 days, those were analyzed. There was around, I'll tell the statistics which I remember. I have the paper also. Then for 3 days, we developed a modus operandi for the Dhupanakarma. Now do we have, sir, do we have a Dhupanakarma, any methodology? If you ask that, you ask the patient or the family that, okay, you have a fire, you put this a little, that's all. But we saw that for this cubic meter of volume of room, this much of powder, this much of time, and close the windows and this one, typical fumigation. And believe me, this was done and sample was collected on the first day, sample was collected on the second day, sample was collected on the third day. And in these 3 days, we got the sample collected and verified. And then again 3 days without Dhupana. Now the study had reached the government also. I had given to the government, but study had not been published. Anybody is, we tried because there were too many stakeholders in that, and I retired after that, could not. Believe me or not, after the first day of Dhupana, when there were the only bacterial and fungal, this thing was estimated, and the bacterial colonies, which was around 1,300 in the first day, after the beginning of this study, after 1 day of Dhupana, it dropped down to 150. And after 3 days Dhupana, it was just around 30 or something. The figures are there with me. And children, after 3 days without Dhupana also, it did not go up to 1,000. It was there around 300 only. So remember that we were able to prove that, okay, Dhupana is not just this one, because it contained Vaja, Kushta, as sir told, Kushta, all this Gugulu, etc. And that impact was that the Dhupana which was done was found to be really Bhutagna. And that Bhutagna nature of that and this one. And the holiness of it, or all the other belief, this one in that, all maybe have been useful in that. But I believe that I told that even there was a observation, the fungal load also came down very much. And I told that there the microbiologists observed that even those very, very Staphylococcus and Streptococcus aureus, like very difficult organisms also got resolved in that. So this is a study, I call it a pilot study only. There is a lot of opportunity for you to take up the things which link the reality of this one. And one more thing I tell, that whenever they are telling in the stage of myth, behind every myth there is a reality. Behind every myth there is a reality. So if you are able to find out that that is good. Second one more thing is that now sir was asking about whether there is an impact. Sir, last Adi Masam we call it, Karkadaga Masa in this one. In our place it is Tamil, Malayalam, both of these things. Every Friday you can see that either in each house, in each community temple, in big temple there, this Mavalakku was being done, which is raw rice pounded with jaggery and then ghee lamp being burnt, surrounded by neem leaves. And this is an offering for Mariamman. It is so whether this Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa has not been as a prevention for Janapada Dvamsa has not been included in our culture. Please, students, now whatever culture we are having, you just inquire what is the relevance of why Amma is doing this on this day, why this celebration is being done, why this function is being done, what was the impact of that function on the health. Basically, I found out that every ceremony, ritual we are doing are connected with our health on. So I tell that why the explanation also I tell that because this is the place, this is the time when there is the Pitta Koba, Pitta Chaya, Varsha itself, Varsha, it has to be Varsha Kalam, it has to be, there is the Vata Koba and Pitta Chaya. And during the Chaya Eva Jayet Dosham, everyone who are above 60 or 70 will understand that earlier chicken pox and smallpox and all were during this Sharat Kal beginning. This is Ritu Santi of that. At that time only it used to occur. At that time, mass medication or mass preventive methodology was being adopted. Everywhere, every street, every home, every front door had neem leaves. And Pitta Shamaka, Panaka, or what you call the Guda with rice was being taken as prasad. We know that, so if you are able to connect the culture and the Shastra, which we are dealing in tune with, it is all mentioned for the well-being of mankind. I think you will be understanding more things. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your views. Now, I would like our session chair, Hema ma'am, to conclude this session.
Probably even I wasn't so sure about whether Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa is gonna work in the clinical practice or not, because most of the times all of us we go with the Yuktivyapasraya Chikitsa itself. So I think we got to know many more things, even about the scientific view regarding the Daivavyapasraya Chikitsa also. And I'm really thankful for the fascinating panel and the audience who are really engaged in today's session. Now, I request Dr. Muralidharan KP sir to felicitate the panelists.
Vaidya Aashish Phadke, sir. Vaidya Madhuri Patil, ma'am.
Vaidya Rishi Manivannan sir. Vaidya Om Prakash Narayanan sir. Vaidya Dinesh K sir. Vaidya Anantharam Sharma sir. Next is Vaidya Roshni Anirudhan ma'am and Gopakumar sir. Though they were not physically present, it was a pleasure having them in the virtual platform. Let's have a huge round of applause for Dr. Hemalatha ma'am, session chair, for promptly directing the session on the right track. Last but not least, for Miss Anmol Singhania, who efficiently managed the flow of the session fantabulously. Indeed, it was a remarkable session. Thank you. Our next session will be by 2:15. We want to apologize for any kind of discomfort that you felt during the session in the name of a good Tadvidya Sambhasha. Thank you all for the beautiful session, and we will assemble again by 2:15. I request all the panelists to come on the stage for a group photo.